Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. We are live. It is Tuesday, June 2nd. And, well, we have a lot to talk about. Every day we have a lot to talk about. But today I think we have a little bit more than usual to talk about, given the announcements that have happened over the past 24 hours. Some of you guys might have heard of it already. If you were on the market close last night, you saw some of the breaking news. We also had some updates late last night outside of the core stuff that happened with Google, which is going to take up a majority of the conversation today. It's going to be very, very important. There is a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I think we are entering a new era, not only for the stock market, but for the AI CapEx build out. And there will be a lot to analyze in terms of how that build out is actually taking place. And on top of that, you've got a stock that is up 20% in the pre-market. I know a lot of you guys are wondering why that stock is up 20% in the pre-market. MRVL, we will talk about why. Because what we saw last night and what we're seeing in the pre-market is pretty freaking incredible. MRVL up 18.2% in the pre-market. It was actually up even more than this. It hit 283. Right now it's at 259. Would not surprise me if this thing rallies all the way to 300 today. We're going to see if that ends up happening. You got Google that's down 2.8% in the pre-market. Ironically, what Google's doing and what they announced yesterday actually helps MRVL, because MRVL is one of the suppliers on the TPUs. It also helps Broadcom, which has earnings tomorrow. Broadcom right there. 6% up in the pre-market. That is a lot for a $2.18 trillion company. So we're going to talk about the interconnectedness with all that. And then you got Bitcoin that just keeps going down. I mean, unfreaking believable levels of momentum to the upside and to the downside on different areas. And we'll talk about how all this is connected as we get into the show today. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Tess, Chels, Nick, Chad. What's up? Cindy, Carolyn, Patrick, good morning. This is a big one today. We got a lot of news to break down. I've spent, honestly, all night thinking about a lot of these updates, and I have a lot of different perspectives on it. Going to try to bring as many perspectives as I can to try to make it make sense. But we got a lot. We've got a lot. Vi, George, Daniel, what's up? RF, Andy, good morning. Your software names, unfortunately, are being used, in my opinion, once again, as liquidity for the semiconductor names, but there might be a good reason for that on a day like today. ServiceNow down 6% right here. It's kind of inevitable that ServiceNow, Salesforce, Palantir, they would all take a little bit of a dip based on that Google news last night. And so we'll talk about all that and kind of see how it relates to everything. Nebius, by the way, absolutely crazy. By the way, I bought CoreWeave last night. Overnight markets, 125.30 is my entry. I am absolutely chasing CoreWeave, but the Google announcement last night made it obvious that, you know what might look like a chase today is not going to look like a chase probably in a couple of years. I bought CoreWeave last night. Overnight markets, 125.30 is my entry. I also bought Keel. Pulled the trigger on Keel. 605 is my entry on Keel. This one, I expect this to fall back to 550. This is more speculative. This is following Leopold, if I'm going to be honest. And this is hoping and assuming the backs of the 3 deals they have in the pipeline to be able to sign. $4 billion company. Leopold owns 38 million shares. I've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks. Finally pulled the trigger last night. I would imagine if they get even one of those deals, the company would re-rate. So those are the 2 new buys I added last night in the pre-market. Keel is way more speculative than CoreWeave, obviously. They don't have a lot of deals. They don't have anything that's officially proven out outside of the potential for their capacity. But I don't think the Leopold guy is buying 38 million shares for no reason, right? So, I think there is some level of momentum in terms of why he's buying it. I could easily see that one's falling back to $3-4. And if that does happen, then, the question is that a juicy buy on the dip? I could easily see CoreWeave falling back to $100. But on a day like today, with Google's announcement and with HPE demolishing earnings, which we'll talk about that, up 30%, yeah, it seems kind of obvious why some of this AI build out is going to keep happening as we get into it. Nebius right there up another 5% in the pre-market. Absolutely incredible. Hive, I have not looked at their earnings. They didn't release it last night. It's down 9%. I really haven't gone through the numbers, so we'll take a look at it later throughout the market open. But obviously the street probably didn't love the numbers, and that's why that stock is down right now. Okay, so let's talk about it. let's talk about it. Let's get into it. And let's get into a discussion of what's going on. First of all, MRVL. Why is MRVL up 17%? Well, I will let one video do the talking to explain why this stock is up.
Congrats on a great kickoff yesterday, GTC. You guys are off to the races this week.
Thank you.
Look, maybe you heard some of what I just said. So we're talking about connectivity today.
The next $1 trillion company, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa! That would be exciting. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
The next $1 trillion company, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa! What's up, Jensen?
Dude, even the CEO was like, wow, didn't expect you to give us that type of a pump, Jensen, but thanks. Appreciate it. That is why MRVL is up in the pre-market. Jensen said two things. MRVL will be the next $1 trillion company. He also went on to say, yeah, Jensen's acting like Trump now. MRVL and NVIDIA are strengthening their partnership to expand critical networking connectivity to power AI data centers. There you go. Those were your two things. AMD does have 65,000 shares of MRVL at $99. I don't think NVIDIA has any 13F investments on MRVL. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think NVIDIA actually has it on the balance sheet. AMD does. And so I'm sure AMD appreciated the announcement here by Jensen. But this is just incredible. Now, does the stock deserve to be up 20% because Jensen said it's going to $1 trillion? I mean, probably. I mean, it's Jensen freaking Huang, right? Like, in all seriousness, I don't know if it deserves a 20% pump. The multiple on MRVL was getting pretty aggressive, almost arm level aggressive, even before the print. When it opens up, you know, the PE will be well over 100 going into the forward earnings. But at this point, I don't know if you can use the conventional metrics like price to sales, PE ratios, et cetera, to be able to determine the fundamental foundation on how we judge the growth trajectory of these companies or how we think of their importance in the broader AI semiconductor landscape based on the Google news that we got last night. And so because the Google news last night was so big that we're going to talk about, I think that in conjunction with Jensen talking about MRVL going to $1 trillion is what really matters. MRVL did have their own keynote last night. That is true. I don't think that keynote was going to be enough of a reason to pump the stock 20%. Remember, this is a $200 billion company. A 20% move, you know, you better announce something really special to get that type of move. And I don't think MRVL announced anything that special. They announced some really good things, and it was important. We'll talk about them. But Jensen making that statement is what caused all the business wires to be like, oh, Jensen says MRVL to $1 trillion. And when Jensen says something is going to go to $1 trillion and it's only worth $200 billion, I think a lot of people pay attention to that. And even if it's just FOMO buying in, they are buying in. And I kind of don't think this thing fades out. I mean, they had a really good earnings. They're one of the core suppliers for TPUs that gets them to the Google connection. We'll talk about that. But then Jensen putting that stamp of approval on you. I mean, even, you know, Jensen at freaking GTC was like, Nebius will help you to go where you need to go. And that was enough validation for a lot of the market to say, okay, if Jensen really believes this much in Nebius, we should take a second look at it. And now we see where Nebius is today. So that was the first story of last night. Last night was a crazy night in terms of AI updates, but this was one of the stories that, again, whether you think it's euphoric or not, the market is giving MRVL the benefit of the doubt right here and trusting Jensen that it can go to $1 trillion. Now, yeah, and MRVL barely got a pump on earnings. That's fair. So one could argue this is like a delayed reaction from those earnings as well. Why is Nebius up? Why is CoreWeave up? Why is Broadcom up? Well, Google changed everything last night. They changed everything. They changed absolutely everything. I'm still wrapping my head around what happened, but it has got me thinking very deeply about this AI CapEx build out. As Jose says, has Jensen lied to us yet? That is correct. Google is going to be diluting by $80 billion. Google is doing an at-the-market offering of $80 billion in equity. Berkshire Hathaway will be taking up $10 billion of the $80 billion, and $40 billion will be dropped ATM. $30 billion of it will be underwritten in different public offerings. Berkshire, at a price of $350, has taken $10 billion off the table. Why are they doing this? Well, the quote from Alphabet last night, and I know everyone, or at least a decent chunk of you, are thinking, wait a second, the Mag 7 are supposed to buy back stock and give us a dividend. They're not supposed to be diluting. Google says AI is driving an expansionary moment for Alphabet. The company is experiencing strong demand for its AI solutions and services from enterprise and consumers at levels that are exceeding the company's available supply. Now, let's talk about the Berkshire angle of this first. Berkshire already has a $15 billion stake in Google. They got in at $240, so now they're buying it at $350 share. It's a 5% discount to the price that it is today. I am still confused exactly why Berkshire agreed to do this at a measly discount to the share price today. I mean, Berkshire is not really the one to just YOLO into a deal. They tend to be very meticulous and wait for really big opportunities. Again, they have $400 billion in cash, so they have the money, but they usually wait for a really big opportunity, which would just lead to a really big dip. I mean, they didn't, they didn't deploy most of their cash for the past year for that reason. One of the only stocks they did buy was Google. I think part of the reason that Berkshire is doing this, as crazy as it sounds, and maybe this is because Warren Buffett is no longer at the helm, is Berkshire believes in the AI CapEx build out. And I mean, if you had someone who was like, I don't know, 35 years old, who's all into AI, believes in this whole revolution or whatever, running Berkshire Hathaway, they would be using that 400 billion piggy bank in a fundamentally different way than investing in insurance companies. Now, Berkshire shareholders might not like that because that's how they've been conditioned to think about the world of investing, value investing versus growth, et cetera. And so that would be a totally different paradigm. But the point is, if they are starting to think that they shouldn't just be stuck in Heinz Kraft and they need to take more risks, and maybe they don't want to buy semiconductor companies because those tend to be cyclical and they don't want to time the cycle, but they know that Google's going to be around forever, just like Apple's going to be around forever. And they can give Google this money. And even if the stock falls in 5 to 10 years, they know Google will be a much larger company than it is today. And they can validate the proposed offering right here, Google down 3%. Then maybe that's the reason why they are doing this. Maybe that is the reason. I'm still trying to figure out, I haven't fully kind of wrapped my head around how they agreed to do this. I mean, if Google was saying, hey, we're going to dilute, and Berkshire knew about this, Berkshire could be like, okay, go ahead, dilute, and we'll buy up the stock when it falls 15% because, I don't know how the market's going to interpret a $80 billion windfall. But it's almost like Berkshire is so excited to get a deal at 350 that their team of analysts have come to the conclusion that no, Google at 350 is a steal, and we should want to be part of this private placement because we should want to support the CapEx build out. And the reason why Microsoft is down right here in the pre-market, not only is IGV down, software is down, so that's hurting Microsoft, but number two is because now what Google has done is opened up the floodgates to basically say we don't have to tap the debt markets anymore. We don't have to lever up and print these like 70-year bonds that they were doing over the past couple of years. Same thing with Meta and Amazon and Microsoft. We can just dump shares on our investors. Why? Because we're growing. If the CapEx leads to growth, then it doesn't matter. If the CapEx delivers an ROI, if this 80 billion turns into 240 billion of ROI, the market inevitably will say, okay, that was a good deal. And if the 80 billion comes from shareholders, which is less than 2% of the market cap, which is, not really that diluted when you think about it, then the stock inevitably is able to absorb that, just like Rocket Lab, when it got diluted 3 billion at 130, was able to absorb that as well, and it hasn't, collapsed since that time. Then that's why Google's not feeling like they need to tap the debt markets, and they can now easily visit the equity markets. I'm going to put a poll in the chat on how people feel about this, because there was a lot of mixed feelings last night, and I don't want to say it's like 100% bullish. I also don't want to say it's 100% bearish. I lean more bullish towards bearish simply because I'm more constructive on the CapEx leading to an ROI. But we have never seen a mega cap dilute at this level. And what I think it's going to do for Amazon and Microsoft is basically give them the freedom to say, if Google can do this, then so can we. And by the way, not only do they have the autonomy and the freedom to be able to say, oh, if Google can do this, then we can do this. It is now inevitable that they have to do this, because if Google's getting basically a free 80 billion, they don't have to pay any interest on it. They can buy back these shares 10 years from now. They can just immediately at the money, dump the shares, see if shareholders buy. I mean, shareholders are inevitably going to buy it. Maybe the stock goes down, but what does Google care? The stock is up a lot. It was at 150 a year and a half ago. It's now almost at 400, 350 right now, 365. So it's like one of those things where it's like Google's delivered shareholder value. No one can say it's the best performing Mac 7 outside of NVIDIA over the past couple of years. And from Google's perspective, they can easily say, this 80 billion we deserve. We've done a hell of a job. Everyone said search was dead. It's not dead. Everyone said we wouldn't win in cloud. We just grew 63%. So if we deserve this capital, even if our share price stumbles in the short term, in the long term, we'll get a higher ROI. Microsoft's probably thinking the same. Amazon's probably thinking the same. Now, they haven't delivered massive shareholder value like Google has, but nonetheless, if Google's able to get a free 80 billion, there's no way in hell Microsoft and Amazon are going to think, oh, well, we should keep levering up to get that same 30 billion or 80 billion. We should be able to also dilute shareholders, and they should be able to be okay with it because we're going to give them the same pitch that Google's giving them, which is that we're going to grow. And hopefully they can find a Warren Buffett type of entity to help validate the dilution. So this is interesting, man. This is very, very interesting. It's why I bought CoreWeave last night. I think the kind of takeaway here, and at this point, here's the punchline. This AI CapEx build out, we already knew it wasn't stopping. Now it feels like it's really not stopping. And what is the logic behind that? If Google is literally diluting their shareholders, a $5 trillion company diluting their shareholders, to get more money to do what? To give to MRVL, to give to Broadcom, to give to freaking Micron. This memory thing is not slowing down. To give to SanDisk, to give to Nebius, to give to CoreWeave, to give to all the neoclouds, to give to all the different suppliers that they have, to give to the photonics plays. All of these companies are going to directly or indirectly benefit from the CapEx spend. And if Google's ready to raise another 80 billion for more CapEx, that means next year they're going to raise the bar for the amount of CapEx they're spending. Same with Microsoft, same with Amazon, same with Meta. I don't think Meta needs to dilute because they're not really building, AI services for other companies. They have an advertising business, so I don't think it would make that much sense for Meta to dilute. Meta stock is also down a lot, so I don't think shareholders would be happy about that. But the point is, all these companies now are thinking, oh, if the equity markets are okay with us doing this. I mean, 5 years ago, the equity markets would be like, what the hell are you doing? You're a $2-3 trillion company. You can't dump shares on us. Like, no, like, you're supposed to be buying back our stock. And now it's the total opposite. And that's also why it kind of makes sense for MRVL to be up. I mean, they're really up because Jensen pumped them. But outside of the Jensen pump, MRVL is one of the key suppliers for TPUs. That's part of the reason they've had an earnings inflection over the past 7 months. And same thing with Broadcom, which has earnings on Wednesday. Broadcom's at 2 trillion. I don't know if we wake up on Thursday and it's a $3 trillion company or something. But it's just, they are one of the core suppliers for Google as well. Some of that 80 billion is obviously going to go into Google. What does this mean for AMD? I think it's bullish for AMD because inevitably that means more CapEx is going to be spent. That CapEx is going to be distributed across a variety of different players. I don't know how much Google has a direct deal with AMD. Meta is the one that spends a bit more with AMD, but I'm sure there are some relationships in which Google has been buying different types of chips from AMD. And even if there's not, more CapEx in the system just means that AMD has bigger TAM to go after, especially as the CPU TAM continues to grow as aggressively as it does. Same thing for Intel. Intel has a partnership with a variety of companies. Who knows if Google says, hey, let's launch a partnership with another global foundry in the United States. I mean, there's just so many different ways that this can turn out to become an incredibly exciting opportunity for Google. Why is Credo down after earnings? Credo had a great earnings, but they were up 50% going into the print. Also, they're only down 3%. They were down 10% last night. So honestly, it's recovering really well. But yeah, they had a great earnings. I don't think the earnings, there was no red flags in it. It's just, it was up a lot going into the print. So what do you guys think? For those that have had 24 hours to think about this, 71% of you say bullish versus bearish. I think Michael Burry is going to have a field day with this, and he is going to go crazy. The Bears are already, as I've seen some bearish analysis, super happy this happened because now they have something different to talk about. But I don't know, man. It's pretty incredible. Amid is the dilution, bearish rate cuts. This really has nothing to do with rate cuts. The oil crisis is going to have to do with rate cuts, although oil is down a nice 1% today. So we're getting some resolution, hopefully, to this soon. Trump did say late last night that he thinks it'll be done in a week and he'll get a deal. Hopefully that'll happen. But I think that comment is what got oil down. But this has nothing to do with rate cuts, right? This is more so a question of like Google realizing they don't need to lever up debt. They can just issue shares and people will buy them. And if people buy them, then why should Google pay interest on debt? This is like essentially free money for them. The funniest thing about this is Google said in the press release that 30 billion of the 80 billion they raise are going to be going to stock-based compensation and tax expenses. So part of the reason they're doing this is because they also think that, hey, there's a lot of extenuating expenses that we have, and we could use this raise not only for CapEx, but to get rid of some of our obligations that allows us to spend more money on CapEx. Now, remember, the CapEx has been funded by free cash flow, operating income, et cetera, which is why some of the bears are chirping today, because it's like, oh, now it's not free cash flow. Now it's not operating income. Now it's bonds, debt, and dilution. And it's like, okay, sure, but are we seeing growth from that? Yes. All right. Then the market's going to be able to withstand that. And if that's the case, then I think think the market can theoretically absorb this. It will make the Google stock extremely sluggish. Yeah, so that's the kind of core thing right here. This is super bullish for all. What's the theme been this whole year? The literal theme this whole year has been you buy the CapEx beneficiaries. And I don't know if we're going to wake up one morning and it's going to be like, yeah, the CapEx beneficiaries are done. You can't buy that anymore. But until that happens, and with announcements like what we got from Google yesterday, it doesn't seem like that's happening soon. But why has Meta been stuck all year? Why has Microsoft been stuck all year? Why has Amazon done okay, but relatively stuck versus the earnings growth that they're putting up? Because the market has moved on from buying the people that are spending the CapEx and buying all the beneficiaries of the CapEx. And just recently, the market started thinking the software companies are somewhat of a beneficiary of CapEx. And we'll see if that continues to play out. Now, I think the market, Google was the highest Max 7 year-to-date performance. It was up about 20%. Now, I think the market's saying, well, can we actually buy Google here? If Google's going to dilute every time the stock goes up, and they have $80 billion that they can use to dump on shareholders. Now, again, it's 2% of the market cap. Is it really that big of a deal? I don't think so. But it also makes you wonder, is the stock going to be a little stuck? And is the better buy a MRVL, even if the multiple there is completely more aggressive, than Google's multiple, given MRVL's going to get a lot of money from that. On top of that, I mean, do the Google executives think their stock is overvalued right now? You wouldn't be doing this if you thought the stock was undervalued, right? The whole point of diluting is you dilute when the share price is high, because there is a arbitrage between what you think the perceived value is and what the actual value is, and that difference is what you capture as a company. I mean, there's a reason why Rocket Lab diluted at $130 versus at 57 in March, right? Like doing that in March would have been really stupid. Doing that at 130 made a lot of sense. And Rocket Lab is down from the price they diluted at. Granted, it's not down that much, but the point is, I think there is some level of the Google executive saying, look, we've had a hell of a run. Like, it is time for us to tap the equity markets and really be able to fund our CapEx in a more efficient way versus levering up debt, which is really smart on Google's part, but it might not be the best for shareholders right now. And I think time will tell to see if that ends up actually playing out in any meaningful way. Siraj, thanks for the super chat. Admit, would you own MRVL at these levels? Maybe spreads. Well, Jensen says it's going to $1 trillion. So Jensen said it's going to $1 trillion. So I don't know, man. I don't freaking know. I don't know if today is the day to buy this thing. This thing could fizzle out. I also think this thing could just easily spike back up. I mean, maybe he re-rated the company completely. Look, MRVL is a pretty aggressive valuation. So does ARM. There's a lot of these names that are out there. So does Intel, right? But the valuations really don't matter. So at this point, you're kind of sorely betting that the hype around their growth curves continue to sustain. And that's why you would buy a $500 call on ARM, or a $350 call on MRVL, or a $150 call on Intel if you're looking at the options markets for a lot of these different names. And I don't think it's crazy to take those bets. It's just, once again, same thing I've been saying. Do you have the stomach to take those bets? And speaking of, do you have the stomach to take bets? HPE last night crushed earnings. Basically a Dell type of quarter. Not as good as Dell, but pretty damn good in terms of the beats that they put up, raising guidance. 28% server market, networking market growing like crazy for their AI revenues. And that's why Dell went up another 5% pre-market. Dell right there, 473. And then SMCI also got a bid, as that's up 3.84%, 48.58. When we get an actual correction across the market, the highest beta names are going to take a really ugly dip. The question is, when do we get that correction? And more importantly, do we get that correction this year? Because theoretically, every year since 1950, we've had a 10% drawdown on the S&P 500 at some point during the year. We've technically had that, not literally 10%. It was about 9.2% from peak to trough back in March. So I don't know if the stock market gods want to count that as our drawdown that we're supposed to have, because again, every single year we have it at least once. Even in 2024, August yen carry trade, that was our drawdown. Obviously 2025 with the tariff stuff. So do we need to have another 10% drawdown? Because if we do, there's just no way in hell some of these stocks are going to be able to hold on. If the S&P actually falls 10%, Intel, Dell, SMC, I mean, these are extravagant multiples that they're trading at that are probably deserved based on the earnings growth. Maybe not to the level that they're at right now, but if you have a 10% market, fall off, all these names are going to get on sale, and they would be amazing buys. But at this point, when Google's ready to sell 80 billion of their stock, it makes me wonder, does the market let it get that bad? Unless we have some catastrophic macro event that is something that none of us can control, does market sentiment ever get that bad to the point where these AI CapEx beneficiaries fall down the drain? Maybe, but if it doesn't, then this is kind of the new normal. And if ARM goes from 408 to 300 when it was at 100 earlier in the year, yeah, it's a dip, but it's like it's still up 3x on the year, right? And I think that's kind of becoming the new reality for many of these names that have run as much as they've run so much. So that's what we got, folks. Google completely changed the game. Pretty exciting. And yeah, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Now we need a lot of the AI thesis to keep playing out, the data center thesis to keep playing out. We kind of can't have a moratorium on data centers because that wouldn't be the best thing in the world. But as long as it keeps playing out, I don't think it slows down anytime soon. But what do you think about Keel and CoreWeave? So again, bought both of those last night. Keel is, once again, I will just blindly say this. This is a speculative bet based on tailing Leopold's 13F. I mean, a lot of people have tailed his 13F in a variety of different ways. He's had a lot of big winners. I think he's just right about the NeoCloud space. I mean, he's obviously called CoreWeave and Iren and Nebius really well. And Iren is the one that hasn't really taken off from. I think Iren right here as well has to be somewhat of an interesting buy. Unless the company messes up dramatically, I don't see how some of these NeoClouds don't get an exaggerated move to the upside based on getting new deals. And it is quite concerning to me that Iren still hasn't been able to lock in a really big deal. Like, it's just weird, but I would assume that it's inevitable. And if it doesn't happen over the next 6 months, then I think maybe then you reevaluate the thesis. But it feels like it's going to happen given how much CapEx is being spent and how much capacity they have. Again, Daniel Roberts, Jensen, and the Dell CEO, they were all together at the event last week. You would think there are more deals coming. And then CoreWeave, to me, I mean, look, this is NVIDIA's best partner in the NeoCloud space. This is NVIDIA's best partner in the NeoCloud space. And so I think betting on CoreWeave is kind of like betting on NVIDIA. And, you know, if Jensen says MRVL goes to $1 trillion and then it pumps 20%, what does it mean if Jensen says, hey, CoreWeave, we're going to put $10 billion of our capital into you. We're going to backstop you with $6 billion worth of puts in case you can't sell your GPUs. I mean, they have CoreWeave's back. And it's one of the, and then you look at CoreWeave's backlog, $100 billion in revenue, right? Yes, they have a lot of debt, but at this point, so does Google. I know Google's not CoreWeave, but at this point, I don't think the market cares about debt. The market cares about growth, and they know that debt will eventually be paid off as AI continues to become as expansive as it is in the economy. And we would need the AI bubble to literally pop in a dramatic fashion for all these companies to completely fall apart. So Keel, I'm expecting this thing to go back down into the low fives, would buy the dip there. CoreWeave, expecting this to go back into the low hundreds. And if it does, those would be dip buys. But at this point, I think a lot of people are realizing these are the names that are going to continue to get the bid when it comes to the NeoCloud space. ASTS, that's up 3.68% as that continues to go a little bit green from last night's 10% sell-off. Nebius, again, I feel like Nebius and CoreWeave also have a date with 100 billion market cap. Like, that's another part of the reason I bought this. Now, again, Nebius, just an incredible company in terms of the diversification. Nebius right there, 67 billion. CoreWeave as well is at 68 billion. CoreWeave's doing a lot more business than Nebius, but Nebius is a lot more diversified in terms of their stakes. I think both of them, just kind of obvious, it seems like they are going to continue to run. SoFi's down 2.58%. Robinhood's down because Bitcoin is down. Again, lots of these fintech and SaaS names, I think, are taking the hit because when Google dilutes by 80 billion, I don't think the market can ignore the AI CapEx beneficiaries on a day like this. And so whether it's a little bit of euphoria, FOMO by the market, just general excitement for what Google is doing, I think today's one of those days where software and fintech probably takes a breather. And the AI CapEx plays get a little bit more love. Hive is a NeoCloud. I don't really know much about them. I didn't see their earnings, guys. I mean, I don't know exactly why they took a hit. I'll see if I can get a little bit of update on their earnings, but I would imagine the market was not the happiest. Why is Microsoft down 3%? Very simple. Microsoft, here's the results. I'll put it on the screen. Results actually look pretty decent. Maybe not better than expectations, but what I'm looking at on the top line numbers look okay. Revenue up 158%. And overall adjusted EBITDA up year over year. The reason Microsoft is down is because I think the market's afraid that Microsoft's going to dilute as well. Right? So the narrative yesterday was Microsoft is going to be a chip play selling to Anthropic. Microsoft has these new laptops with NVIDIA. There's all these different catalysts to get you excited about it. And it's freaking Microsoft at the end of the day. The narrative today is, wait a second, if Google's ready to dilute, thankfully Google's diluting at all-time highs, basically, Microsoft's got to think more seriously about dilution. Because once again, how can they let Google get free money and they don't get free money, which is, putting these shares out into the market is basically getting free money here. Your cost of capital is only the arbitrage between the stock price going down and the price where you issue it at. And if the market's ready to absorb Google and Microsoft, even if Google and Microsoft stay flat over the next 2 years, I mean, Nadella and Sundar are playing the long game. And yes, they want to see the stock go up, but they also know they have to be competitive in this environment. I mean, Larry Page and Sergey, if you've read any interviews about how they think about AI, I mean, these guys would rather die than lose the AI race because they feel that they felt so behind on different technological updates over the past 20 years. And so they're not ready to lose AI. And neither is Microsoft, neither is Amazon. It's a war for cloud computing. And at the end of the day, if the market thinks Microsoft's going to get ready to dilute, then yeah, Microsoft's going to go down because no one wants to be in a stock that issues, $100 billion of dilution. And I think that theoretically could be happening right now as well. Oracle, same thing. Oracle has been doing this ATM strategy over the past year as well. And so I think the street's kind of thinking, what if Oracle retaps the equity markets, given they've already levered up as much as they could on the debt markets? And that's why Oracle is down about 3.8% right now. What about Meta? The interesting thing about Meta right here is, again, I don't think they can dilute because they're not building products and services for other people and CapEx and data centers so that other businesses can be successful. They're literally spending CapEx and data center spend for themselves, which is actually the unique difference between Meta and all the other companies. They're, you talk about ROI on CapEx. Their CapEx is literally going back into their business and leading to higher growth. Whereas Google, Microsoft, Amazon are spending all this CapEx to help support other millions of businesses that are using cloud computing. And so Meta doesn't really need to dilute at that scale. I mean, they don't need to dilute by 100 billion to build more GPUs to help their advertising, right? They have enough free cash flow. They have enough operating income to do that. So I don't think it would make sense for Meta to do this. Also, the stock is not at a level where, if the stock was like $800-900, maybe Zucks could think about it, but we're not there. So I don't think Meta would do that. If he does do that, that stock's going back down. It's going back down pretty hard. It's already, down enough for the year, but I don't think that would end up happening. And that's why NVIDIA's up. That's why NVIDIA's up. NVIDIA is getting all of the benefit of this CapEx. Is Zeta green? Zeta getting a little bit of a green move right there, 23 to 24. I'll see if there's any news. Still down about 2% in the pre-market. I feel a dump coming after SpaceX IPO. Elon finally commented on the valuation for the first time in a while. Someone said right here, how do you justify that a valuation that is over 50x revenue for SpaceX, Elon? And he simply said, you shall see. So that was his justification for the valuation. It's kind of interesting. Back when Meta went public in 2020, one of the biggest concerns for their IPO was, will there be enough liquidity to buy up Meta stock? And we've all seen what has happened since then. The same concern right now, is there enough liquidity? Is there enough interest for people to buy up SpaceX stock? I mean, in this market, if MRVL can go up 20% based on a 3-sentence pitch by Jensen about MRVL becoming a $1 trillion company, I mean, I think there's going to be plenty of demand for SpaceX. And so time will tell, but we're going to see how strong it ends up becoming over the coming months through the IPO. All right, so that's what we got last night. That was a big deal. Nubank got downgraded by a Bank of America analyst. That's why Nubank is down 7%. Again, market doesn't care about crypto. Market doesn't care about fintechs or international stocks. Market cares about AI beneficiaries, especially on a day like this. Doesn't mean that Robinhood, SoFi, Affirm, Coinbase don't have momentum. But once again, it's really, really tough to ask SoFi to hold a 19 handle today when Marvell's up 20% and when Google just diluted by 80 billion. It's also really hard to do that when rate cut expectations haven't gone down yet, or rate hike expectations haven't gone down. So again, these names, based on the run that they've had over the past couple of weeks, which I don't think they're going to give back the majority of that run, but hopefully they continue to hold on to at least some of the run that they've had, aren't dead, and they have really good fundamentals. It is the same thing we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, the opportunity cost of holding them in relationship to names that are probably a lot more expensive, but also in the absolute right place and right time, aka AI CapEx, that are going to get the bid. And that's why you're seeing them get them today. Yes, also Nubank had a CFO change as well, which is another reason. Anthropic, they filed for a confidential S1 last night to go public. So IPO is coming out in October, most likely for Anthropic. We don't have any of the details yet because the numbers are not public. But when we finally get the numbers, we'll get a better understanding of how they're justifying their valuation. I think Anthropic's going to go for 1.5 to 2 trillion. They just raised at 965 in the private market, so it makes sense that they're going to get at least $1.5 trillion market cap. And based on that, we're going to get a lot more details over the coming days in terms of what happens to Anthropic. By the way, I don't see a Zeta headline, so I know it's got a little spike in pre-market, but I do not see any headline for why. But you do have a green candle right there. HIMS, is that up right now? HIMS is up 2%. I think HIMS completed their acquisition this morning, and that's why HIMS is up. And you might see a bit more green right there. HIMS also got a $25 price target this morning. Yeah, and I believe they officially completed one of their acquisitions. So that stock getting a little bit of breakout as well. And that continues to go green. Amit, wouldn't the dilution impact the next earnings EPS for Google? Yeah, so this is something that Chris brought up last night, and it was a really good point. 30% of Google's EPS in Q1, the quarter that we just saw a month ago, was based on their gains on equity on Anthropic, SpaceX, and I think about a couple of other private companies they have, but obviously Anthropic and SpaceX were the majority of it. Chris made a hell of a point last night. If the Google executive team knows that their EPS year-over-year comparisons are about to fall off a cliff, because last quarter they really crushed it. But remember, they crushed it in part of the fact that Anthropic raised the valuation and SpaceX raised the valuation. If they know over the next few quarters, they're not going to be able to easily get that EPS beat. Again, 30% of EPS, doesn't just come out of thin air. It has to come from somewhere. If they can't use their gain on equity investments to be able to justify that, because those companies are going to go public and then they're going to be subject to the whims of market conditions, unless Google actually sells all their shares, then, theoretically, the stock's overvalued because they're not going to be able to put up that type of EPS growth unless the actual core business grows so much to make up the difference. But I don't know if it's going to be able to make up 30% of the difference in 90 days. And so that might be another reason Google's thinking this is probably the best time for us to raise capital. Because if we have some pretty bad EPS prints, and not bad in the sense of, Google's not growing, but it's just not the sort of explosive growth, NVIDIA 227 right there that we've seen over the past few quarters, that could be your reason. And as a result, that could create some different issues. Nebius right there, 278, that continues to go up 5% as that is green in the pre-market. Again, for the people saying why software down, I think those MRVL comments from Jensen, and I think Google saying we're ready to dilute by 80 billion is enough for the market to think, okay, we probably have to take seriously the AI CapEx names again. And the AI CapEx names are not the software applications of the world. Doesn't mean those software companies are not going to benefit from AI in general. A lot of them are growing like crazy. Some of them growing even more than the AI CapEx names, but they're not the absolute direct beneficiaries. And that is my hypothetical thesis on why SaaS is getting hit right here based on this Google announcement. By the way, the memes of what Berkshire did last night have been crazy. This one was the funniest one. Berkshire management ever since Buffett retired. I thought this was this was a fun one. So you had that happening last night, and then you had Meta CEO, or not CEO, COO, bought $3 million worth of stock. First insider buy in a long time. I know Meta's been getting hit. I know it's been ugly. I know it's not been fun. I do think Meta will have its moment. This is one where you either believe in it, or if you don't, you go buy MRVL. And Meta, 13 times free cash flow is becoming a little stupid. But at the end of the day, it's not in the limelight that MRVL or some of these other companies are in. And so it's one of those things about which ones do you want to buy and which ones do you want to hold in the midst of this. But you are seeing some Meta insiders actually decide to start buying some more stock. Option traders are the most bullish on the stock market in more than 5 years after the total put-call ratio plunged to 0.64% on Friday, which means in March, this was almost at 0.9. A lot of people are buying puts versus calls to hedge. It's now at 0.64. A lot of people are not buying puts versus calls. They are buying calls and being more excited, especially based on the level of call volume option that we saw yesterday. It's at the highest level in the past couple of years. On top of that, talking about the dilution and what it means to lever up your balance sheet. Take a look at NVIDIA's 5-year credit default swaps, which is basically determining how creditworthy you are as a company. It's trading at 38 basis points, slightly below the U.S. sovereign CDS at 40 basis points, which means the market thinks NVIDIA's debt is more valuable than the debt, or is more safe, I should say, than the debt of the U.S. federal government, which is kind of crazy because NVIDIA only has 8.5 million in debt, 8.5 billion in debt versus 100 billion in free cash flow. Obviously, the United States has almost 40 trillion in debt. But the fact that the U.S. government, backed by one of the largest militaries in the world, has a less safe credit default swap rating than NVIDIA is just incredible. But it goes to show how much the market is a fan of what NVIDIA is doing and how much they believe that they're going to be able to continue to execute at this level. Wow, breaking piece of news. Trump just chose Bill Pulte to become the acting director of national intelligence. This guy is currently the director of the Federal Housing Agency. Okay. So the guy who's responsible for making homes affordable is now going to be running the National Intelligence Agency. All right, that's I don't have any other updates on that outside of the Wall Street Journal headline. Interesting. Now, he's the acting director of national intelligence. Maybe he's just there temporarily. But I guess Trump I guess Trump wants him to be there. Okay, it's been a crazy 24 hours. Here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Tuesday, June 2nd, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Google, 2.75% down on the day, 2.9%. Let's see if this loses 365. We just lost 365. Can we lose 364? Where does she bottom out today? How does the market think of it? And what are we going to see from here? Zeta with a massive spike up. I have no news on Zeta. It's looking like she wants to break 26. I have no news on Zeta, but that's green. Hims, 28. That's a spike up. And that's green as well. John Veva says, it's my birthday. John, happy birthday to you. Thank you for being part of the show. MRVL, that's up 16%, 254. That opens up green. Meta opens up green. Microsoft down 2. Hive down 6. Robinhood down 2. NVIDIA loses its pre-market gains of 227.50 now to 225. So that's not red, but it is not as green. CoreWeave loses 130 to 127. Keel's up about 1%. SMCI up 7% on those HPE numbers. HPE 33%. That's green. Rocket Lab up 3%. That's green. Dell was more green. It was almost at 490 pre-market. Now it's at 467. So that one got faded. Google loses 363. We are down 4%. Market cap just lost about 200 billion. Let's see how badly investors punish it. Again, if it goes to 350, then you get to buy Google at the exact same price that Berkshire Hathaway just bought Google in this private placement. Zeta right there. I don't have a headline, but it looks like she wants to break 26, 25.78 right there. Hims at 28.25. Nebius 275. That continues to move higher. Nebius was at 280 in the pre-market. AAOI, that's up 3%. Lumentum, that's up 7%. Bloom Energy, that's up 6%. That was down 7% yesterday. Mercado Libre, that's flat. BMNR, that's down 1%. Rubrik, that's down 1.2%. What about the other software names? Palantir is down 2%, but got a nice bounce from 155. Salesforce and ServiceNow. ServiceNow it was down a lot more pre-market. It was at 126. Now it's at 130. So you got a nice little boom right there. Salesforce at 204. That also was at 195. Wow, nice rebound on IGV. It's not fully green yet, but look at that candle from the pre-market. IGV had its best 2-day stretch since 2001, by the way, over the past 48 hours. So you are seeing the market get a little bit more excited about these software names. SoFi, 1808, potentially going below 18. Marvell, 20%. 20% on Marvell. Nokia, 1672. Let's see if we can break 17 in the actual trading session. We broke 17 last time, but it was in the after hours. Would be very nice to see it actually get a close above 17. SMCI is up on those HPE earnings. the server rack business is growing exponentially. SMCI is probably going to have a massive print. Now, maybe it's being priced in after Dell and HPE, but I think Street's just front running it right here and buying them up. Keel, are we getting a little bit of a pump? There you go, 4% on Mr. Keel, 634. Let's see if that can get the close above 650 today, as that would be a key level for it to get above. Pound, you're trying to get to 157. HIMS 28.25, Zeta 25.60. The D-Wave and Quantum stocks are green. Yes, there was an investor day yesterday. I didn't get to see the CEO do an interview. I saw that he was live, but I didn't get to watch it. So the D-Wave investor day, along with the other quantum stocks, getting a bit of a bid today. So you're getting quantum, semis, some of the software, and then some of the energy names and the drone names. Ondas right there, that's up 2%. That's continuing to get a little bit more love. MP, rare earths, that's up 5% as well. There's supposed to be an IPO this week, right? Does anyone know what day that happens? I think it's tomorrow. Quantinium, INFQ, that's up 10%. It's a pretty good week for a quantum company to go public. And so that's also going to be something for the market to interpret. Space, Virgin Galactic is down 20% today. Virgin Galactic down 20%. Shake Shack is down 10%. I don't know if they had earnings today. This is the worst since November 23. I would imagine they had earnings which weren't the best. They did have earnings. They cut their fiscal year adjusted EBITDA and net income guidance, and they lowered sales from 5% to 3% for the second quarter. Okay. I mean, in this market, if you're not selling chips, you cannot lower your guidance. And yeah, Street's not happy with burgers being lowered right there. On top of that, the Victoria's Secret brand, that was up 30%. Is that still up 30%? Up 40%. I didn't look through their numbers yet, but I guess people are not eating burgers and they are shopping more. Victoria's Secret right there, 38%. Hell of a move on that. I mean, you probably had to see massive, massive levels of people going out to those stores and buying for those same store sales to continue to be pumping the way they are. NVIDIA right there, 225.77. Corning should be getting a pump today as it is. 190 right there, up 8%. The photonics plays are getting a lot of love. Poet, Lumentum, all those names are going up. Part of the reason is because of what Credo said last night. Part of the reason is what MRVL said yesterday about optical networking. I mean, that industry is set to literally 10x in terms of its TAM. Now, some of the valuations have already kind of priced that in on the more speculative side, but other valuations in the market, like a Corning, although they're aggressive, they're not really taking into account the multiple types of deals that Corning is going to get for optics that they've already basically said in their earnings call that we are ready to sign a couple more $10 billion deals. One of the deals they already had is with Meta, and then you obviously had NVIDIA invest in them as well last month. So, I mean, the photonics name should be going up today, and I think you're seeing that right now as the market open. CoreWeave's right there, 127. AAOI is up. ASTS, what a nice little reversal, 112. Maybe SpaceX IPO narrative is back for this one. Rocket Lab, 123.73. That's up 1% as well. As Micron up? Micron is down, but it's down by 1%. Not that big of a deal, but that is down. TE, is that pumping? T1 Energy, 7% move. That is also pumping. That is also pumping. LAC, Lithium Americas, that's up 13%. The reason the rare earth names are up is because what was the headline? U.S. Department of Energy announces $134 million in funding for 2 rare earth projects. I don't know if Lithium Americas specifically is going to benefit from that, but USAR up 5%. The rare earth thematic is obviously getting the market to be a little bit more excited. AMD, are we up? We are up 511. We have flipped green. USAR got it. Okay, so that's why that's up 5%. Makes sense. OSS, dude, we didn't talk about it yesterday. Massive week as well. And this one looks like it's ready to push 20. So from a government contracting perspective and Edge AI perspective, they've obviously done very well, and it looks like that momentum is continuing. Rigetti right there, that's up 5.36%. Bitcoin, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about Bitcoin, guys. I am not inside of the Bitcoin religion. I do believe in it as an asset class. The only exposure I have to Bitcoin is Robinhood. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what to say. Like the market doesn't care about crypto right now. The market cares about MRVL. It's actually very simple for me to understand why Bitcoin is down right here. MRVL 267. Now, if you're a majority crypto investor, I think at this point, it feels like crypto is closer than not to a bottom. So do you sell it here and flip to AI for this thing to eventually pop? I mean, I don't know. But does this thing continue running the way that it's running, or the way that it's dumping? I don't think so either. And I just don't know what to say about Bitcoin. Like if you're heavy in MicroStrategy, yeah, you're feeling it hard, right? But I think eventually things will flip. I mean, Robinhood, I'm feeling it today. Robinhood down 4%. It's annoying because that is literally happening because of Bitcoin. That's not happening because of any other. I mean, the S&P is damn near close to all-time highs. That's not the reason for why Robinhood's getting hit. S&P right there, slightly red, 757, but it's because of Bitcoin. And I don't know when that's going to change. Redwire, that's up 3%, getting a recovery from yesterday. What about the Bitcoin miners turned AI HPC plays? Yeah, but the thesis isn't Bitcoin on those. Like no one's buying IREN for their Bitcoin exposure. And if you are, I'd be questioning why, right? You're buying IREN because you think they're going to get a massive hyperscaler deal and they have 4.5 gigawatts of capacity, which is the thesis, right? Who cares about their Bitcoin? Now, they haven't really executed on the deal part yet. Nebius and CoreWeave have, but the Bitcoin miners, the thesis on CleanSpark is not Bitcoin anymore. If you're buying CleanSpark, like Leopold, he has CleanSpark. I don't think he's buying it because of Bitcoin. I think he's buying it because they have a lot of facilities they can use to build data centers. And that has become the kind of core thesis. Rocket Lab, 125.45 as well. Credo just flipped green. Very nice. Or not fully green, but it did touch green. And it's pretty close to officially flipping green. I ran 67. So again, it's just in one of the most raging bull markets of our lifetimes, with this much CapEx being deployed and then this many deals and partnerships being announced, Bitcoin is not in the center of any of it. And that's the issue. And that doesn't mean you have to be bearish on Bitcoin, but it does mean you have to accept the reality of it, which is that it's just not really the thing the market cares about right now. And that's okay. It's market forces, right? It's angry. I mean, Meta is below 600 in a raging bull market. That sucks too. That's annoying. Google, by the way, losing 360. My goodness, 359 right there. So it sucks, but I think it's easier to theoretically buy a Meta because you know that they're part of this AI build out and eventually their time will come. It's a little tougher to buy Bitcoin right here because in the midst of rapid inflation, a war, and massive liquidity, this thing still can't catch a bid, which is and then you got MicroStrategy selling. Even if it was 1 Bitcoin, they sold 30 Bitcoin yesterday. It doesn't help the narrative. Like it really doesn't help the narrative. And so that is why I think Bitcoin is being left for dead right now. But I do think eventually its time will come. We are seeing some red candles, folks. Microsoft going down 3%, Oracle down 3%, Nvidia losing pretty much all of its pump. I mean, we are seeing a little bit more pain right here. Also, the 4-year cycle. Yeah, that's also true. I mean, the 4-year cycle has been true pretty much for the past 16 years. So if it stays true, then by November, this thing should turn around. And it's just about waiting through that storm to see if it is able to turn around. Hive was down 7. Now it's down 1. CoreWeave back to 125.30. That one has lost all of its pump. Dell has lost all of its pump from last night. Intel lost all of its pump. ARM lost all of its pump. All of these semi names. Did anything happen just now? I don't see a headline, but all of them, almost all at once, just flipped red. HPE as well. I mean, you got a 25% move, but it's down 7% from where it was at the very beginning of the market open. Broadcom 480, but even that is down from 494. These are some pretty hefty red candles that have not officially flipped these stocks to be red, but they are indeed taking them off their highs of the day so far. 415 on Tesla. That is red. Cypher, is that green? Cypher is green, 7%. Interesting. Nebius and CoreWeave kind of getting hit a little bit from their highs. Cypher going green. Nebius still up 3%. Is oil spiking? Is it? Oil was at 90 in the morning. Up. It is at 92. It is starting to go up a little bit. It's starting to go up. Navitas, that's up 3.2% as well. I don't see a very specific. Well, Trump, I mean, I forgot to show this in the market open, but Trump is pretty pissed off at Netanyahu. Let's just say that. Axios reported a source close to Trump said, this is what Trump said when the whole headline about Lebanon broke out yesterday. Quote, Trump said, "You're effing crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." A second source brief on the call said Trump was pissed and at one point yelled at Netanyahu, "What the F are you doing?" The tweet we got from Trump last night was basically him saying, "I had a productive meeting with Netanyahu, and he promised me that if Lebanon doesn't attack, if Hezbollah doesn't attack, then they're not going to attack, yada, yada." So Trump is trying to calm down the bond markets and the oil markets by saying, hey, look, I talked to him. We're going to be okay. Obviously, none of us know exactly what the conversation went like, but I would imagine Trump is not the happiest because, oil was below 90 yesterday, and we were headed in the right direction. Then that Lebanon news came out, and it kind of messed up a lot of the progress. Didn't hurt the markets, really. It hurt Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of the scapegoat for the geopolitical stuff, but markets have been okay. I ran right there, 66.93. MRVL, 24%. Wow. 24%. But overall, that might be pumping oil a little bit, even though it's not having that big of an effect on the market. So I think people might be dumping some of the semi-names and just buying MRVL here. Maybe that's what's happening. Keel still up. SMCI taking a little bit of a breather. Nokia taking a breather. Virgin Galactic down 30% pre-market. That one getting it. Apple is up 309. Yeah, Air Test Systems is up. Again, all your photonics plays, they're getting a bid today. Based on what MRVL said last night, based on what Credo said last night, Corning, AEHR, Sivers, I think in Sweden, they're up 70%. Your AAOI, Lumentum, all of them, a lot of them were down a lot yesterday. Now, again, these names are super volatile, right? AAOI went to freaking 130 a couple weeks ago after falling from 180. Right now it's at 200. So these are incredibly volatile names. You got to have the stomach for them. But photonics as an industry and optics is getting a lot more excitement. Nebi's right there, 275. 275 for Nebesis. It was at 250 pre-market as well. Sam Altman on CNBC. Okay. What is Sam Altman saying? Oh, this is from the interview last night. This is not that important. We can go back to that later. We watched some of that last night already. It wasn't, he didn't really say anything that compelling. He said three things to take away. He said two major things. Number one, he said, I think people are anxious about AI and it's okay that they're anxious about AI. And the way that he said it didn't make me feel less anxious about AI. So once again, it's Sam Altman at the end of the day. Then number two, he said he tried to downplay the IPO event. He tried to say that, an IPO is a financing event. It's not something that we're super obsessed about. In reality, I think he's lying. Obviously, an IPO is not just a financing event. It's a timing event around market conditions. And if Anthropic's going public and SpaceX is going public, you guys can't just delay it because what if there's not appetite to buy your shares in the next 7 months? And so I think they will probably be exploring an IPO pretty soon, even though he's downplaying that they won't. Rocket Lab right there, 125.63. That's up 2.64. Micron still slightly red. Corning 191. Poet, that's up 9%. Reddit 8% down, or I should say 5.2% down, 182 to 169, 8% from the pre-market. That's getting hit. I imagine your Zeta's holding up, not really getting hit. Shopify down 3.5. Palantir down 3.5. ServiceNow down 5. Is NVIDIA taking off? Okay, NVIDIA just hit 228. There's got to be a story right here. I think there should be a story. NVIDIA usually doesn't get a pump like that easily. I do not see the headline yet, unless the algos just decided it was time to buy NVIDIA, which, it's kind of been time to buy NVIDIA for the past year. Yeah, Virgin Galactic down 30%. Again, those names go up and down pretty quickly for whatever reason they do. 229. I don't see the headline on NVIDIA. I don't see any headline. Maybe that's all the software liquidity going into NVIDIA right there. Again, the Google dilution news, I don't understand how it's not bullish for NVIDIA. That's a lot more GPUs that'll be being bought. for NVIDIA. Rick, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Myth, for everyday coverage. Very good day for me. I'm waiting for Google buying opportunity. Rick, I know you are loaded up on Broadcom, so thank you for being here. And congrats. It's always a fun day when you see one of your biggest holdings go up by 5%. NVIDIA right there, 229. What's the headline, dude, on NVIDIA? I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe the street's buying MRVL and NVIDIA. Rick says I also have MRVL. Okay, well, today's a really good day for you. This is why you invest, right? Because one day Jensen might say your company is going to $1 trillion, and you just sit back and you just watch yourself make what, probably 2 years of salary in 5 seconds. That's kind of how this happens sometimes. I don't see an NVIDIA headline, folks. Elon Musk linked firm buys Texas land ahead of planned chip plant. Could that be it? Elon's buying more chips from Jensen? That's a pretty aggressive move on NVIDIA. I mean, every percent is almost 75 billion in market cap. You know, Jensen should just say his stock is going to 10 trillion. I mean, if everyone's buying based on his predictions, why can't he just say, well, you know, I think NVIDIA is going to 10 trillion. He's giving all the love to MRVL and all these other companies. It's like, bro, just say NVIDIA is going up. Like, maybe the street will buy it. 273 on MRVL. AMD, almost green. Where is GameStop? 21-5. He would go to jail. Speaking of people going to jail, Andrew Left of Citron Research is going to jail. He officially was found guilty last night of manipulating stocks on, guess what? Social media. This is why when some of you guys ask me to talk about these sub $500 million companies, as much as I would love to look into them and really do the due diligence and talk about, at some point, you have an audience where you literally could be attributed to moving a low float stock. And you can literally go to jail, bro. He was found guilty in a court of law in Los Angeles yesterday. He's going to be sentenced on August 31st. You know what's his maximum time? 25 years. 25 years for $20 million for saying he was short a bunch of names in 2018 and manipulating stock prices. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now he's going to try to appeal, and I don't know how successful the appeal is going to be. But dude, you just like you got to be freaking careful with this stuff. You got to be careful when you develop an audience. You have an influence. You cannot pump things that are movable. Talking about Reddit or Oracle or AMD, nothing's going to happen. Even talking about $3 to $10 billion companies, yeah, maybe you have some influence on getting people to think about the company, but nothing's really going to happen. Talking about a company with 50 million shares, 500 million market cap, something can happen. And if you are the reason for something happening, and if you don't have Elon lawyer type of money to deal with the SEC, it's not a fun situation. So it's definitely one of those things to be concerned about. He also tried to short Palantir, and that didn't work out. Tried to short SanDisk, that didn't work out. I mean, Citron Research just has not had the best track record here over the past couple of years in terms of their shorts. NVIDIA, 230 on Mr. NVIDIA. Isn't Trump doing the same thing? Yes, Trump is doing exactly the same thing, which is what makes it worse. Because if I'm Andrew Left, I'm like, bro, our president of the free world launched a meme coin that is down 99%. But at the end of the day, he's the president. So he's going to get away with it. And in a court of law, you can't just say, well, the president's doing it. Like, that's not really a defense. But the president gets to do what the president wants to do. That doesn't mean you as an average individual can get away with it. But yes, to your point, that's exactly what Trump is doing. 230.50 on NVIDIA, up 3%. Still no headline I'm seeing on NVIDIA, but it is green. It is indeed green. MRVL right there, 22%. Broadcom up 5%. AMD up 1%. Wouldn't Burry go to jail? Well, the thing is, Burry doesn't professionally manage money anymore. And Burry is, wow, AMD really pumping. Burry's now a Substack content creator, right? Citron Research is a professional money manager, Andrew Left, and there's a lot more free speech, sort of like leeway that I think a Michael Burry will get. Because you can express your opinion on the stock, right? But you can't manipulate it. And if you have a large enough following where you can manipulate it and literally move it And like, let's say you say, I like a stock and it's worth $200 million and it has 20 million shares outstanding. And then a bunch of people buy it because you said you liked it. And then you sell it when they buy it. That is called a pump and dump. And that's not exactly what Andrew Left did, but that's essentially what the courts found him guilty of in terms of manipulation. And, you know, that is securities fraud. So it's just stuff that you have to be very careful with. Nebius right there, 275. Wow, NVIDIA. I don't know what the reason is, guys. I really don't see any core headline. I think it's this Google news that CapEx is going up and it's not stopping. Google right there, 361. That's down 4 as NVIDIA is 231 right there. Maybe it's just a delayed reaction off GTC and maybe it's a delayed reaction off earnings. Remember, NVIDIA fell to 211 after those earnings. Micron now going green. I mean, if Micron's going up, if Corning's going up, if Marvell's going up, NVIDIA has to go up. Like, just logically, it wouldn't make sense for NVIDIA to be stuck in the face of all these other names rallying. Broadcom going up, you would imagine NVIDIA catches bid, and today NVIDIA is catching that bid. Same with AMD. Same with AMD. Virgin Galactic is not going up. That's down 30% right here. I love how we normalize corruption to the point where people don't even react anymore. Yeah, I mean, look, I've been pretty honest about my opinion on what Trump did with the meme coin. I thought it was pretty bad, but I'm also rational enough to realize he's the president and he controls the SEC, and you know he's not going to get in trouble. So you either go with the flow, deal with it, learn how you can benefit from this as well, or you know, you cry about it. And I think you know, part of the reason the bears have been hit so hard this year is because so many of them ideologically disagree with Trump. Bloom Energy, that's up 6%. And their ideology, we talked about the hedge fund manager who blew up his hedge fund 2 months ago because he was short, because I mean, the guy had like anti-fascist written in his Twitter bio, right? Like, he really is not a fan of Trump, obviously, very outspoken on the guy. And he got played like a fool by what Trump did. He thought this Iran thing would be like the tariff thing. The tariff thing reversed. He didn't realize the Iran thing would reverse, which is kind of what Trump does, right? Cause a ton of chaos and panic and eventually tries to save the day. And he got duped and his entire hedge fund blew up because they were just net short when they couldn't be short. So I think a lot of ideology, even if you disagree with, you know, how the president is doing this stuff, has led to people wanting to be bearish. And the problem is, whether you like Trump or Biden or whoever the hell is in office, this AI CapEx build out's not slowing down. And if that's not slowing down, that's kind of the guiding reason for why this market has continued to go up. 68,000 on Bitcoin as that continues to go red. Palantir, 152.46. That is down 5% as well. What do you think about Muddy Waters? I think Muddy Waters has got to be a little concerned seeing what's happening with Andrew Left. Like, it is not worth shorting a company and causing this hoopla and trying to manipulate it just to make a quick buck. It's just not, especially if you get sent to jail. So it's like, you know, these shorts, it's okay to have a thesis and disagree and be bearish on a company, but then to go out of your way to try to influence it. And then, I mean, didn't the Muddy Waters guy go on CNBC the day after or the week after he put up the short report and said, yeah, we're not even short. We just have some long dated puts, or like we covered our shorts. We got into puts. Like this type of shit is literally using your report or your content as the catalyst to then move in and out of positions, which obviously the street or the SEC is not going to take lightly. ASTS, that's up 9. Netflix, is that moving at all? Netflix is, wow. Netflix, 75. Netflix gets really attractive. That puts it back to the price that it was at before it got the massive pump back to 110. 75 puts Netflix at its lowest EBITDA in 5 years. I wonder if we revisit that. ServiceNow now getting dumped, down 6%. Shopify getting dumped. Apple going up. Air Test Systems up 15. Palantir has to be getting dumped right here. Palantir is indeed getting dumped, down 5%. Oh boy. Netanyahu states Mossad will continue to lead the fight against Iran's aggression. Netanyahu, Mossad to stay at forefront against Iranian aggression. Netanyahu, Iran regime destined to vanish, will help end it. Netanyahu states that the Iranian government is bound to disappear and that we will assist in its demise. Okay. not necessarily the best comments while Trump is trying to negotiate with that same that same Iranian regime. I don't know what's going to happen with that, dude. I don't know what's going to happen. AMD right there, 518. We'll see if that affects oil prices at all. Oil's still 92 right now. Again, Trump's got to figure out exactly what's going to happen in that situation, because at the end of the day, the market can only take oil going up for so long. Maybe we can handle oil 150. Maybe we can. But at this point, I don't know. Coherent, is that green? Coherent is green, 15%. Thank MRVL and Credo. I mean, talk about pumping the optical plays. Absolutely pumping the optical plays. Figma, I was looking at Figma. I can't say I'm too upset about this drop. If this thing could get back to 22, 21, it would be even more attractive. But I am doing some DD on Figma right here, 9% drop. Yeah, guys, I think the software names, once again, falling for the street to fund their purchases on MRVL. Now, the interesting thing about this is when the software names fall, once again, we've seen how easily the narrative can flip. So, you know, the more they fall, the better deals they become. But it is, again, a question of, do you buy the beaten up names that are undervalued and wait for the narrative to flip, or do you just buy into the strength of Dell and Coherent and Lumentum? And, you know, that comes down to kind of how you want to position the portfolio. NVIDIA, 232, no headline here other than pure inflows, looking like it's coming in. Oh, JOLTs. We do get JOLTs in about 1 minute. Let me pull up the JOLTs right here. We do get job openings in America. Thank you, Digital Content, for that reminder. Wait, today's a Tuesday. Do we usually get JOLTs on a Tuesday? Oh, we do get it on Tuesday. Okay, so the street's expecting 6.8 million job openings. Street's expecting 6.8 million job openings. JOLTs is how many jobs we have open in the country, which is a barometer to determine kind of how the labor market is going. Any thoughts on upcoming hood event? That's for the crypto thing, right? Let me pull up what the event is. Is that the UK event? Yeah, that's the UK event. We already know about that. We've known about that for a couple months. I mean, Vlad talked about it on the earnings call. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to announce in this crypto event, but I'm happy they're doing it, and that'll be in the UK. So I think a bunch of you guys in the chat already said you got invited to it, so that should be fun. They did invite me to it, but I'm not going to be able to make it in July. But it should be good to see their crypto updates. Okay, Jolt, 7.6 million. Holy guacamole. That's a lot of jobs. That is 800,000 more jobs than what the street expected. I don't know if we can really believe that all those jobs are real. That is where the hell did we get 800,000 more jobs than expected? By the way, Vlad's going to be on CNBC in a little bit. I'm just seeing it right now, so we'll see what he has to say. I mean, if that's real, folks, if that is real, AI is creating jobs.
Job openings and labor turnover, known as JOLTs. This is April read, 2 months in arrears. We're expecting a number around 6.8 million. Wow, way higher. 7,618,000. That's the best since May of 24. Let's call it 2 years. And the other part of this that's good news, the vacancy rate, which is expected to be 4.2%, jumps up to 4.6%. The last time we were higher than that at 4.7%, and you guessed it, also May of 24. So this is pretty good news, especially on the week where we're going to have the employment report. The no hire, no fire might be a little bit more hiring than firing as of late. And one other notion I'd like to point out, the 210 spread now, the difference between those two yields is 41 basis points. It hasn't been that small. The curve hasn't been that flat in 14 months. Why? Well, because of the Fed on the short end, keeping rates on the high side, and on the long end, following oil. And remember, the day before the conflict, we settled a 10-year at 3.94%. Maybe we revisit that when the conflict's over. Seema, back to you.
Rick, thank you. Just saw the NASDAQ now trading positive territory, but let's turn.
Wow, dude. That's a okay. Ooh, let's do a poll right here. I'm very curious what people think. S&P, it looks like it wants to flip green. It really looks like it wants to flip green right here. That's not really bullish for inflation because more jobs means more inflation, but more AI means theoretically more deflation in general, even if it doesn't come from the labor market. So eventually the inflation thing will be resolved. Oil will come down. That'll resolve that stuff as well, which means more jobs just means, you guessed it, more earnings growth. And that's really good for all of us that hold stocks. Do you think these 800K jobs are real? Yes or no? Again, the reason I understand why people are skeptical on this is because the jobs report gets revised like every month to the downside, and you start to realize like literally 2025, we lost 1 million jobs after the revisions. So it's not something to get that excited for, but if it's real, it is something to be excited for because AI led to all these, new opportunities. But it's also a little hard to believe on the spot that that's happening. BTC doesn't care. BTC continues to go down. Some of it could be more part-time. Yeah, it could, but 800,000, dude. I mean, even the quits rate, 2.97 versus 3.17 expected, 1.9% versus 2%. Layoffs came in even better. Street wanted 1.8 million, came in at 1.6. Like, you didn't even have as many layoffs. 1.1% layoff rate versus 1.2 expected. Like, this was just a phenomenal jobs report. If you think all these numbers are real, it would not surprise me if S&P flips green on this. Like, jobs are the backbone of the economy doing well. These are old jobs for agents. That would be kind of hilarious. But maybe that's right. Iran, a little bit of a pumpy pump. 68.50. 68.50. Bitcoin still down. MRVL 272 still up 24%. I think NVIDIA is going up because they're returning 50% of their cash to shareholders in the future. Well, that dividend increase was a pretty massive increase, dude. 2,500% of a divvy increase is a big deal, in my opinion. Again, the street didn't react on earnings, but looks like they're reacting a couple weeks after. Coherent, that's still up 15% as well. OSS, over 20. Not too bad. This one looked like it was going to get there yesterday as well. 6.3% move right here. USAR, that one's losing a lot of its pump. Robinhood also losing a little bit of its pump. Vlad will be on CNBC in a bit. Not sure what he's going to be talking about. They did have the CFTC president on today, and they asked him about prediction markets and kind of where that's going from there. And, they seem pretty bullish. As long as this administration is supportive of it, then you're probably going to see more of it continue to get there. Here is the update on what Jensen said last night around MRVL and more on HPE.
Dell's 80% move, despite Dell's clear outperformance. A lot of the upside may already be priced in the stock. So that is actually more of a consensus across the analyst community. Separately, MRVL also up, 24% today? Call it the Midas touch of NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. He took the stage at Computex alongside MRVL CEO Matt Murphy. And Jensen Huang called MRVL essential to the future of AI infrastructure, saying it could be the next trillion-dollar company. It still has a way to go in terms of market cap, but NVIDIA has also a $2 billion stake in MRVL. Important to note that. Murphy said the next bottleneck in AI isn't compute or memory. It's going to be connectivity, which is where MRVL plays a role. And the shift from copper to optical connect is already underway, and MRVL is completely at the center of that. So it's just another bottleneck within the supply chain, guys.
Surprising move in MRVL. Christina, does this suggest to you that the next big bottleneck is in connectivity and networking?
If we're going to take the CEO's statement at face value, then yes. And it seems like the market is constantly trying to find the next hole. So first it was, the GPUs, then it was the CPUs, and then the memory, and then you had semi-cap equipment. We haven't really even talked about electronic design firms like Synopsys, where some people are saying that's going to be the next bottleneck too, or maybe even the construction with the clean rooms and how long it actually takes to bring these things online. So I can't predict because I would be a lot wealthier if I could, but in this case, I can understand how they're saying that the switch from copper to optical could drive a lot of demand, but we're still ways away from that.
In regards to
That's why the photonic stocks are up. Again, Marvell saying the switch from copper to optical, that is what Corning and Poet and Coherent and Lumentum, like that is why those names are surging today, because not only did Jensen say Marvell could be $1 trillion, he's saying a company that focuses on connectivity can go to $1 trillion, which is making all of the smaller optical names catch a bid. Maybe they're not going to $1 trillion, but they're probably going higher than where they are today. And so that is why you are seeing all those names go up right now. And, you know, Marvell, the biggest beneficiary, that's up 25%. NVIDIA loses 230, got some sellers right there. IREN trying for 70, hasn't seen 70 since the NVIDIA deal was announced with them. I mean, hopefully we can see if that ends up happening. Where is Amcor? Amcor 76. Again, this one hit 76 a while ago, then fell, and it's been slowly grinding back up there. So 76.56, that's up 5.24%. It looks like every semiconductor earnings estimates that you may have needs to be increased by an order of magnitude based on the CapEx going up. Like if you're going to think NVIDIA's estimates are going up because of all the CapEx, then you got to think the Amcors, the Marvells, the Coherents, all of their earnings projections are going up as well. And so many of these names, you know, if they continue to be choke points and bottlenecks in their industries, you know, we're going higher. We're going higher on them. So it seems like that's how the market is interpreting it for now. And realistically, you know, we really haven't had a meaningful dip on any of them. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe when Micron fell to like 650, the rest of these names got hit pretty hard. But that lasted for like a day. So, you know, many of these names, the opportunity has not been as vast. Now, the software names giving you another opportunity today, but you got to be able to buy them in the face of the AI CapEx names getting all the love. Salesforce down 5. ServiceNow is down. Redwire is down. Microsoft being down more than Google is kind of funny, but it's also IGV goes down, Microsoft goes down. CrowdStrike is the one I don't get, guys. I don't get CrowdStrike. Phenomenal company. I get cybersecurity is important. They just got upgraded to $800 today. This is one where I really do feel like the analysts are chasing. For all I know, it's going to be $900 on Wednesday, but this one is kind of expensive. And so I really hope that on Wednesday they put up earnings that are just unbelievable. And those earnings get the market to think that cybersecurity is not dead. That would be a catalyst for all the cybersecurity names, but it would also be a catalyst for all the software names. But I just don't want them to have an earnings where the market's like CrowdStrike's up by like 30% more than it should be, because that would be not the best for IGV in general. So same thing with Palo Alto. I mean, this thing is approaching all-time highs. But the reason I'm only a little skeptical here is because these companies don't put up good earnings. Like Palo Alto is growing 15%, CrowdStrike's growing 22%. Like they don't have these massive, crazy growth rates. And I think maybe this is the quarter where they reaccelerate and the market's like, oh crap, like cybersecurity names are growing. But if they don't, do we get a Z-scaler where that thing fell 30% after pumping 40% a month into the print? Service down. That's what we call it on the red days. On the green days, it's service currently right now. On the red days, it is service down. Amit, thank you for showing up every morning, doing due diligence, sharing your honest thoughts, providing comedic relief, analyzing data, and above all, being our investing a friend. You know, XANTHROS, the most important part of that sentence, of that comment, it's a very lovely comment, and it means a lot to me. The most important part of that comment was providing comedic relief. That's the part that I just want to be funny my whole life. I just want to be funny. That's it. I just want to be funny. That's it. That was my dream. And now I get to be funny every day in front of all you guys. You guys allow me to live my dream every day by making you laugh. It's really, it's quite emotional, to be honest. It makes me quite emotional. Keep trying, buddy. Okay. Whatever. The idea that no one here has laughed at least once because of something I've done. Even if you were laughing at me, a laugh is a laugh, okay? A laugh is a laugh. Broadcom losing some of the pump, 478. 478. Save it for your grinder profile. You guys are hilarious, bro. You guys are hilarious. No, we laughed at Cat Williams. You are the funniest when it's accidental. We've had some pretty big accidents and mistakes here. It's part of the show. It's part of the show. SoFi, are we going below 18? Oracle just flipped green. CoreWeave 126. Take CoreWeave down to 100 again. That is the loading zone for CoreWeave. I know I bought it last night at 125, but let's take her down. I was going through some of their numbers last night, too. It's the Jensen cosign along with the amount of backlog they have. I mean, if this CapEx thing is not slowing down, you would just imagine all the neoclouds are going to continue to get a bit. Vertiv, that's up. Liquid cooling, we need that. Lumentum, optics, that's up. Snowflake, that's down a lot today, but it's also up a lot over the past 2 weeks. So I feel like it's taken a normal breather, but nonetheless, it's still down. Adobe, that's down 3%. The memory story continues to be one of the most exciting stories in the market. I wonder at what point more and more people just say, you know what, screw it. Like, Micron's going to 2000. SK Hynix chairman came out this morning and said, we're going to double capacity in 5 years, which is nothing. Like, the amount of demand we have for memory, doubling capacity in 5 years is nothing. Like, even if they double capacity, it looks like there's going to be a supply and demand imbalance for a while in memory. You know, maybe instead of buying a Micron or a Seagate, DRAM's the way to play it. I mean, I think that just might be the easiest way to be like, all right, instead of having to literally buy or pick a stock, just going long the sector might be the way. But it's also, you know, I get a lot of people in the chat saying it feels a little euphoric. I get it. Like, Jensen says, oh, this thing's going to $1 trillion and it moves up 30 billion in one session. Like, it is, sorry, 40 billion. It is a little weird. Actually, it's 50 billion. It was at 190. Now it's at 240. So it's actually 52 billion. Micron's up. And yeah, it feels a little euphoric, but at the end of the day, if he's right, then people are going to hold on to MRVL. Does SK Hynix exclusively sell to NVIDIA? I actually don't know. The due diligence I've done on memory is more around Micron and Seagate in particular, not around SK Hynix. But it was up again last night. The Koreans are just, dude, the Koreans, I mean, talk about generational wealth for that country on one company that is basically 20% of the reason for the country's index going up 100% this year. I mean, whoever bought into strength, and if they even keep continuing to buy into strength, if this memory shortage continues to last, all of the people that took on leverage and take away their life savings plan and bet it on SK Hynix, I don't think it's the safest thing to do, but what if it works, you know? Now, again, that's stuff you hear when things are getting too euphoric, but it is pretty incredible the type of market that we're living in and how it's playing out. Yeah, Samsung as well. Iran, are we at 70? Not yet. But we are close. We are close. Mate, where can we find that clip of you doing the Robinhood quiz and going no? I think someone posted it, bro. I need to save these clips somewhere. If someone has it, just send it to me on X right now. We could share it. A lot of you guys haven't seen it, but it was when I got one question wrong and I lost out on the challenge. That was earlier last year. Mike says, I'm selling another 2K shares of BMR to use as tax loss harvesting. Thoughts on it? You know, I'm not going to lie. The Google news I saw last night, I'm just going to be dead honest, made me want to do the exact same thing. going to be dead honest. The Google news, I tweeted about this last night. The Google news I saw last night made me want to do the exact same thing. And it's not even to be bearish on crypto. It's once again the freaking opportunity cost of being stuck in a crypto treasury versus the greatest technological revolution we've seen in the history of humanity. Now, the problem is, as you guys are saying in the chat, but right now it might be at a bottom. That is fair. But most people that have averages in the 40s, which, you know, if you haven't DCA'd aggressively, then yeah, that's where your average is. For this thing to double, ETH's got to go to 4,500. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Like, it's just, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't think it's happening anytime soon. So, I don't know. Is it the worst thing to take the tax loss and just move it into shit that's moving? I don't hate that idea. I really, and when I saw the Google news last night of them saying, hey, yeah, Google is saying we're going to sell 80 billion of our own stock to be able to fund the CapEx momentum. Doesn't that signal that if you've got a loser in your portfolio, you sell your own loser to fund investments into the CapEx ecosystem? Like, if Google's willing to do it, I don't know. I think it is definitely something to think about when it comes to reevaluating a portfolio based on that news. Like, that news was so monumental and changed the entire paradigm for how we think of the CapEx build-up. For anyone who said, even Chris last night, his big bear case has been for the past couple of months, CapEx will slow down. He legitimately admitted last night that bear case is gone. He said, at least for the foreseeable future, that bear case is completely gone. And it's like, yeah, like, Google's not doing this for fun. They don't need $80 billion to, you know, shower in. They need $80 billion so MRVL shareholders can shower in money, because they're going to give all that money to MRVL and Broadcom because they got to fund the CapEx build up. So I don't know. It's one of those things to kind of think about. Yeah, it's not an emotional decision at all. It's purely 100%, Connie. It's really like opportunity cost. Where do you want the capital to be? I mean, Meta's been an opportunity cost. Now, it's easier to hold on to Meta versus a MicroStrategy because it's freaking Meta, right? Like, MicroStrategy, at the end of the day, you got to hope Bitcoin goes up and you get an MNAV above Bitcoin. Like, whereas Meta is, it's freaking Meta. Like, they will be fine. They will grow over time, even if they're not in the right respect, right? If they're not respected right now by the street, but they will be okay. Whereas Treasury company, you just don't know what's happening. Amazon right there, 257. The one thing this has taught me, these Treasury companies, never again. Never again. Absolutely never again. That's why when people ask me, oh, what do you think about BOT, that robotics Treasury? Never again, dude. I don't care if this thing goes to $150. The entire model of the Treasury company, to me, is literally the dumbest thing on planet Earth. It just is. Just is. This entire experience taught me, like, if you want the asset, just buy the freaking asset. Oh, it's a private company. You don't have access to it. Okay. Well, there's a lot of other opportunities to invest in the stock market. You don't have to freaking get into Figure at 40 billion when you can't even see their financials. You can buy MRVL. Like, boo-hoo. There's plenty of different ways to get access to exposure. So I think we kind of all learned the hard way, but, you know, it's better you learn it when you're young and take lessons from it. But the whole Treasury thing is just stupid. Especially when the whole model, especially on this robo-strategy thing, is they have to dilute in order to buy more shares of these robotic companies. So they're using retail as exit liquidity to do this creative issuance to make it more, like, it's so stupid. Like, when you really look at it, it's like, oh, this is kind of dumb. This is really dumb. And the AI names that actually have earnings and have real cash flows, you know, it just seem like a better bet. Tesla getting a bid right here, 420. 420. Google also coming back a little bit. Google was down bad. It was at 358, now at 370. I think that's the other reason why Sundar feels so confident for diluting, because he's like, dude, people are going to buy my stock. Like, I'm freaking Google. Are they really going to sell my stock because I'm diluting by 2%? Guys, the fear and greed index is about to go neutral. I mean, like, again, the bears don't really have an argument here. The fear and greed index at all-time highs is about to go neutral. I mean, this is just incredible. Like this was at 67 3 weeks ago, and the S&P was 3% lower. Why are we going neutral? Probably because the market environment is pricing in higher expectations for earnings, which means the sentiment around buying stocks that are trading at discounted valuations, like a Meta at 600, doesn't feel extremely greedy. You know, I think we're seeing this shit continue, man. I think we're seeing it potentially continue. My hard losses are all from crypto. Yeah, you know, in the markets, I think everyone gets humbled in different ways. But to answer your question, Mike, I don't think it's a crazy idea. And I 100% was thinking about that last night as well. And I haven't made my mind up yet. But the idea of taking a tax loss harvest and being able to offset a bunch of gains, it's one of the cool things about taking a loss. You could say, you know, you procured capital losses, as Chamath would say. You didn't take a loss. You know, you made sure to switch the fundamental paradigm by which your account sees capital expenditures from the outflows of a stock you had a lower cost basis on than when you bought it. I mean, like, you know, there's different ways to intellectually frame it to yourself, and then you put that money into some shit that has actual profitability, and you move on. Like, that's it. The other big reason I was thinking about it last night is, again, I showed this. We talked about this. Tanner did a video on this a couple weeks ago. If this guy is buying ETH to literally reach a milestone so that he gets paid, because he gets like $100 million at 5% or something, this 5% alchemy nonsense, then I mean, since I found that out, that has led me just to feel completely betrayed, and like, this is just stupid at this point. Like it is what it is. I'd rather admit I'm wrong and move on and not have the stench of this anymore. Like, especially because, again, he's diluting below MNAV when you should be buying back the stock. I don't know. But then again, you think about the crypto cycle and you're like, okay, well, is it really, you know, is crypto really, we're at 67 on Bitcoin. Are we really going to 40, 50? It's like, probably not. But then again, let's say we go back to 75 and let's say BMNR gets to like 23 or 24 or whatever. The idea that ETH is going to go on this massive run, Bitcoin's going to go on this massive run in the next few months, maybe it happens. But if it doesn't, it's like, you probably are better. And if it does, by the way, AI is going up too. Like, you think if Bitcoin goes to 150,000, Nvidia is not going to be closing in on $300? Like, there's no way in hell that Bitcoin goes to the moon and AI tech stocks are down. Like, the opposite can happen, but vice versa can't be the case, because Bitcoin is a measure of risk and liquidity. And ultimately, if risk and liquidity is going into tech stocks, theoretically, Bitcoin should be following it. If it's definitely going into Bitcoin, that means there's so much euphoria for people to speculate that the tech stocks should be going up to the moon as well. So I don't think it would necessarily change. Where are you at in CoreWeave if it drops more? I mean, realistically, I would love it again at 100. We're at 123, probably 105. I would start DCing. I don't think there's that much of a difference, but I would want it in the low hundreds again. Let's see if we can get it to go down. BTC has died like 20 times. It'll come back 100%. It'll come back. Not saying it won't come back. It's just, once again, opportunity cost of holding in the midst of more of these other names continuing to get a lot more momentum. And just, you know, what do you feel more comfortable holding? Do you feel more comfortable holding a treasury company or something that has cash flows? And if you really feel so valuable about the asset that the treasury holds, then you just buy the asset. You know, like, that to me is kind of the simple conclusion on this and the lesson from this entire experience. SMCI right there, still up 6%. Micron goes red. The pattern day change rule does happen on Thursday. That's fair. What's your cost based on CoreWeave? 125.30 as of last night in the overnight markets. But obviously not a full position. Definitely know this thing could come down and would like it to come back down to the 100s. It's just, again, this Google news. I don't see how this is bearish for CapEx. I really don't. I really freaking don't. Now, how do all the semis dump? Well, we get a short-term top. But we need to actually see some evidence for that short-term drop. And we'll talk to Jason about that today on TT, maybe you can kind of see where he thinks the market's going. The Google news was that they're diluting by $80 billion. First time a large cap is diluted this much in 15 years. And they're diluting to fund their CapEx. So the market's interpreting it as bullish, but it's also technically bearish because it's dilution, but it's not really bearish. And it's super bullish for all the beneficiaries of the CapEx, right? That's what matters. Yeah, but BitMine is getting staking fees. Yeah, but I don't think so. Here's the other thing. I don't think the staking fees matter that much because the ETFs can now stake. So it's not like it's some unique advantage to BMNR. Number two is the staking fees are not what's going to get BMNR to go up. It's Ethereum going up, right? Like, make no mistake about it. It's either Mr. Beast turns into a $1 trillion company, which I still think that investment was really stupid, or ETH goes up. And until it does, right? Like, I don't think you're going to see this one make a big move. So again, it's a small part of my portfolio, but the fact that I have to look at it every day, I'm just like, this could be allocated somewhere else, and it could be allocated somewhere that Google and Jensen are telling you to be long on, which is just a little bit more exciting than Tom Lee, who wants to get a big payday by acquiring more ETH. I mean, it is what it is. It's calling a spade a spade. That's what it feels like. Corning, by the way, 9% up on the day. Also, I have enough crypto exposure with Hood, you know. People have told me for the longest it's not exposure. Oh, trust me, this is exposure to crypto. I remember I got clowned in 2023 being like, I don't need to buy Bitcoin, I have Hood. You're like, that's not Bitcoin exposure. I'm like, dude, I don't know if you've seen this thing move, because it moves. And it has massively outperformed Bitcoin since 2023. Rubio just got some comments from him. Iranian conventional shield has been substantially eroded. We are in talks with Iran. There is a prospect that Iran has agreed to negotiate aspects of the nuclear program that they previously refused to mention in discussions. Iran deal could happen today, tomorrow, next week. Thanks, Rubio. That helps us out. We think our budget will go through some changes. Iran still has a lot of drones. Today, there is no Iranian Navy. Oh, Rubio's testifying in front of the Senate? Huh. Okay, that's where we're getting these quotes. Let's go to that real quick. From what
supply chain and the critical minerals and everything else that's in the bottleneck. These are things that are relatively new to us. They've always been there, but COVID underscored that.
Partner.
Helps the American people, and it's guided every decision that's been made since January of 2025. I'll give you a perfect example in our own Western Hemisphere, an area that this committee and many of its members long argued, as I did, has long been neglected and not been paid attention to. We now have in this hemisphere a coalition of friendly countries, over a dozen, who have aligned to work on not just the issues of security that we all have in common, but also economic prosperity that go hand in hand. It's an amazing story that basically, other than Nicaragua, other than Cuba, obviously, continues to be reoriented around the real foundations of national strength. This budget is yet another step, I believe, in that direction. Obviously, the appropriators here.
I think he's trying to get them to give us the 1.5 trillion on the budget. So the quotes about Iran, I don't have the exact clip, but he says Iran has a lot of drones and we are in talks with Iran. There's a prospect that we will get to an agreement today, tomorrow, or next week as we are negotiating aspects of their nuclear program. S&P very close to flipping green right here, 758. But we are still slightly red. Okay, so we'll get some more quotes throughout the day from what Rubio says, but he's really not saying anything that different that Trump said yesterday around the Iran situation. We don't fully know. Mitt, where do you get your news from? I get it from cactusjack.com. You can sign up there for free. There is a guy on this planet named Cactus Jack who can curate news better than, in my opinion, anyone else on the planet. So you can sign up there for free. If you want to support, you can pay $5 a month to support it, but it's totally free to sign up. And that is where you can get all the news. Okay, here's the clip of Rubio on Iran.
Chose to act to deny them that point of immunity. Operation Epic Fury, some of you didn't like it, some of you did, was highly successful in achieving its military objectives, which is dramatically reducing the defense industrial base of Iran. The ability to build these missiles and to build these drones, especially the missiles program, substantially degraded. A substantial percentage, and I'll leave the exact numbers to the Department of War because I'm not a general and I'm not here to speak as a military planner, but a substantial degradation in the number of launchers that they have as well. They still have a lot of drones because these are easy to make. We all know it's not an Iran challenge. This is a global challenge. Chose to act to deny them that point of immunity.
Okay, so nothing that different. Nothing that different from Rubio right there. By the way, Steph Curry signed with a Chinese brand yesterday, which ironically we were talking about Nike yesterday. I cannot believe Nike didn't get this deal. I think that's why Nike's down 3%. It's Steph freaking Curry. The fact that Nike could not land a deal with him and he goes to a Chinese company for a 10-year deal. The guy's about to retire, by the way. He's not going to be playing for the next 10 years. The fact that his legacy is going to get cemented via his brand in China, Li Ning is the brand, over Nike is an embarrassment to Nike. Just calling a spade a spade. It's an embarrassment that Nike could not get that deal done. And it probably wasn't about money. Nike has the money. It had to be about a cultural alignment that Curry wasn't seeing with Nike. He had to go to freaking China to get excited about launching a new deal. And you know, people can say, well, the Chinese market is bigger and there's more people. Yeah, it's like, okay, sure. But that once again undermines Nike's brand. Nike has a big presence in China. You know, one could argue Nike's brand is even more popular in China than it is in other places of the world, even if other homegrown brands like Li Ning obviously have the advantage of being vertically integrated into China. But Under Armour completely, I mean, Curry really made a mistake signing with Under Armour early in his career. I mean, like that didn't go well. I mean, I don't know anyone who got super excited for Under Armour athletic gear via Steph Curry's brand. And I think he knows that. And so the next deal was supposed to be the big one, and Nike couldn't land it. So, you know, I think from Nike's perspective, that brand is just continuing to fizzle in a lot of different areas. 758.50 on Nike. Nike messed up their pitch already. They had an old PowerPoint with Kevin Durant's name in it. Wow. That is crazy. Okay, Netflix. Yeah, so I actually was looking at Netflix last night. Netflix is an absolute buy at 75, in my opinion. At 85, it is, I think, a nibble. The problem with Netflix is the growth estimates for this year are lackluster based on the numbers that I was looking at last night and based on the forward guidance. Having said that, you haven't really had a chance to buy Netflix as cheaply as it is today, other than when it went to 75. And that was when the controversy happened between the Warner Brothers deal. The problem with Netflix is, once again, they're not growing. S&P flips green right there for the first time today. They're not even growing like a tenth of what some of these AI CapEx names are growing. Now, free cash flow, profitability, yada, yada, all that stuff, sure. But like, what's the thesis on Netflix outside of more subscribers, more content? Like, there isn't one. There's definitely not an AI thesis. CrowdStrike, hell of a more expensive multiple, but there is a hell of a better thesis with the Mythos release and how much more cybersecurity is going to be needed in a world of AI. So I think the question is, do you pay a higher multiple for something that is more AI adjacent, or do you pay a lower multiple for something that is disrespected like a potentially a Nike, but also a Netflix, even though Nike's multiple is still stupid. Nike still trades at 29 times. I don't understand anyone buying Nike. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, Meta is cheaper than Nike. And if I put a gun to your head, I think you would say you'd rather own Meta than Nike for the rest of your life, right? So Nike there's a fundamental valuation disconnect. But that's the issue with Netflix. It's like, I think MRVL probably outperforms Netflix from here, even after this bump, right? And if it's about money versus about like holding on to it fundamentally, because that's a different question, then I don't know if Netflix makes a massive move. Same thing with Uber. I think Uber is a phenomenal business, $10 billion in free cash flow. But man, there's nothing exciting about their narrative. If anything, there's an AV disruption narrative, which I think is kind of stupid. But the point is, it's there, and Uber hasn't been able to get out of it for a while. So I think that's the bigger concern there when it comes to Netflix. Hulu, Disney, HBO bundle is way better than Netflix. Yeah, look, I don't even want to say, oh, like my content preferences are HBO or YouTube, therefore Netflix is bearish. Like I made that mistake back in 2022 and missed the Netflix run because I just thought Netflix content was bad, which was such a stupid reason to like not look at the business more seriously. The problem is now, like a lot of the earnings growth has happened. The only reason they beat estimates last quarter was because of the $2.8 billion breakup fee. So I am genuinely curious I think the live sports is kind of like the new avenue of growth. But is that going to be enough to get the street to be like, yes, there should be $120, $130 stock, which is, closing in on $500 billion market cap. And I'm not sure. Okay, Vlad is live. Let's take a listen to what he is talking about right here. It looks like they're talking about the Canada acquisition that just closed with WonderFi yesterday.
And now is our opportunity to finally serve the market with great financial products, which we think have been lacking for quite some time. I mean, whenever you see another product release in the U.S., we have the Canadian contingent saying, when's Robinhood coming here? And we're happy to announce that the time is now. So we've closed our acquisition of WonderFi, which is one of the largest and most established cryptocurrency platforms in Canada. They operate two services, BitBuy and CoinSquare, and they'll be joining the Robinhood team. And we're excited. This also this also gets us to over 1 million customers outside the U.S. It's another step in our global expansion strategy to make Robinhood the leading global financial platform, and not just in the U.S.
Yeah, you're clearly expanding. You have this $100 million investment in the Trump accounts, which go live on July 4th. Walk us through the revenue implications for Robinhood.
Yeah, first off, the Trump accounts, if you really think about what Robinhood is trying to do in our mission, we want to make everyone owners of this great American economy. And we think that by doing that, it's not just good for the individuals, but it'll also create a stronger economy and a healthier, more stable, more prosperous society. And Trump accounts allows us to do that from birth. So it actually gives the power of equity ownership to newborns with a $1,000 kickstart from the Department of Treasury. So Robinhood serves as the sole initial trustee and broker of the Trump accounts. That app that you've been showing on the screen, our engineers and design team have been working on that in close collaboration with BNY, along with the National Design Studio from the administration and the Department of Treasury. So the goal really is to build the best product that the government has ever been associated with. And you can tell by the reception that I think we're on the right track so far. So on launch day, the app hit #1 in finance and #4 overall, climbing to #3 overall. So it was the fastest growing app outside of AI, which is really cool. So off to a good start. Plenty more to do as we get ready for July 4th. But I think it's quite amazing.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be reflected in your stock, down about 22% this year. Why do you think that is? Is that related to crypto and the volatility we've seen there?
Well, I think if it depends on the time horizon. So if you look over the past week, it's been quite strong. If you look in the past couple of years and you take a longer term view, the company's done tremendously well. We've been growing market share, expanding our lines of business, our revenue streams. I think markets tend to have sometimes a short-term outlook on things. A lot of people are talking about what's going on today or tomorrow. We're building this business to be a long-term compounding business, and we want Robinhood to be around for generations and growing market share and serving our customers. So it's not always about what's happening to the ticker on any particular day for us.
Although, Vlad, I was actually just looking at your stock versus Bitcoin. Over 5 years, the correlation is pretty obvious on the chart. But if you go to 2 years, you have been able to put some space between the stock and Bitcoin outright. I wonder if you think that's an important mission to diversify away.
Well, we've been diversifying our business anyway, and that follows from our need to take care of our customers. When we hear from customers, they want Robinhood to be on the cutting edge and to build new things that redefine the future of financial services. So you saw last week, for example, we're continuing that process. We are pioneering a category that we call agentic finance. So we rolled out two things, the beginning of agentic finance. And really the idea is how can we actually give you the power of all these AI capabilities with the safety and security that you expect from a regulated, trusted brokerage platform. So we have agentic trading, which allows agents to trade on your behalf safely from your brokerage account, and also agentic credit card that gives the power of our 3% cashback credit card to your agents as well. So we're continuing to diversify. Also, the core business continues to be strong. You know, we're seeing equity participation and the natural compounding of our core business. Matter of fact, yesterday was our record equities trading day. So we saw the most equities trading yesterday in our history. Also, the largest overnight trading session. This is for our 24-hour market offering. And I'd say, you know, to see that when, as you point out, crypto is in a little bit of a winter and we haven't quite seen the IPOs coming in that people are getting excited about, just shows the natural compounding power of the core business.
Hey, Vlad, it's David. Just real quick, another area of diversification. I mean, the prediction markets. Now, I wanted to get a reaction to this news we got on Friday from Kalshi, and this involves crypto as well. It's going to launch perpetual futures contracts starting with crypto. Give me your sense there in terms of what that means, both as a competition or an opportunity.
Yeah, so we've been offering perpetual futures for quite some time in Europe. So you might remember we acquired a crypto exchange, one of the longest continuously running crypto exchanges in the world, Bitstamp. And so we launched perpetual futures about a year ago. So bringing those to the US is obviously something that's very, very attractive. Now, I think the US also has established traditional futures markets, which we've been offering. So I think it's a positive development. You know, our US customers should have access to these innovative financial instruments without having to rely on unregulated offshore platforms where they VPN in to get access to it. So yeah, as it develops, you should see the products improve, and of course we'll be looking to continue to add everything that our customers want in a safe way.
Prediction markets, agentic AI, there's a lot going on. Vlad, thank you for making the time. Vlad Tenev, CEO of Robinhood.
Always a pleasure.
Why didn't she thank Cactus Jack, who's also in the background and took the time to be there? I mean, I get thanking Vlad, he's important, but the lack of thanking Cactus Jack in the background right there. A little bearish, to be honest. S&P 758. Yeah, I don't think Vlad said anything that we didn't know. Pretty much sort of the core arguments around the AI build out in the context of agentic trading, which is one of the big things they announced. He tried to diverge them from, you know, talking about Bitcoin as like their key, I guess you could say, way to be compared, you know, the thing that essentially Robinhood gets seen as, which is a proxy to Bitcoin. So he tried to say that they're diversifying the business, which they've been saying for a while. I don't know how much the street fully believes in that, but nonetheless, they've been saying that. And then the agentic trading stuff, they really did need a tailwind outside of, you know, the credit card, which is the thing they announced back in March. And the agent stuff, I haven't looked at it yet. I haven't really connected my account to it yet. I haven't seen like what it can be, but yeah, agentic trading is going to be a big thing. Every financial institution is going to adopt it, just like tokenization. And it was important for Robinhood to officially put out that that product. So I thought that was good. Hood right there, slowed down on the day, 3.4%. Nike's down, Netflix down 2%. CoreWeave now down 1.5%. Tesla 421, a little bit of a rip. T1 Energy, this one also Leopold has a lot in. So you got Keel and T1 have been some of the bigger buys that he made in Q1. That stock up now 14%. A lot of people thinking this can potentially pull a bloom. It's more in the solar space, not the fuel cell space. Bloom right there getting almost back to 300. As that continues to go green. Lumentum, again, the photonics names, MRVL really carried them last night. Look at that. Lumentum was 850 yesterday, 1,000 today. Now, again, this thing can go back to 850 really quickly. Like these names, they flip 10% up and down almost every other day. But when you have a catalyst like MRVL talking about the optical networking business, and then you have Jensen saying MRVL should be $1 trillion. By the way, the markets are so inefficient. You know, Jensen says MRVL should be $1 trillion, and MRVL only pumps 50 billion. Like, we talk about efficient markets, but like, MRVL should be $1 trillion. If Jensen says it's $1 trillion, like, the efficiency of these markets are horrible. This thing should be $1,000 a share right now. So I guess that efficient market hypothesis is not really playing out yet, but that was a tailwind for all the photonics names. CoreWeave up or down 1%. ServiceNow down 8%. It is one of those market folks. You think you got a little bit of momentum getting through the SaaS apocalypse, and a day like today brings you right back into it because there's too many AI names the street's more excited about. Now, having said that, ServiceNow was stuck at $95 basically for the past month. So, you know, if you bought it at 138 yesterday, you're probably upset. But if you bought it at 95, it can't be that upset. It's probably a little bit more of a healthy, consolidated move. It is going to be important for or impressive for the software names to go up more and more and more and more and more, just like the AI names have, because they need more catalysts. And quite frankly, the software names don't have any catalysts outside of the fact that they're undervalued, you know, outside of earnings as well. But the AI names get a new catalyst every day. Every freaking day, right? Jensen says MRVL should be $1 trillion. MRVL has some presentation on photonics. NVIDIA losing its whole pump today. That's kind of annoying, but 232 to 226. But there's like Google, 80 billion dilute. There's always something new. Corning's almost 200 for the AI names to latch onto. Whereas the software names, really, it's just sentiment, undervaluation, and then the perception of their earnings growth in the context of AI. Nebius, by the way, lost its whole pump as well. So Nebius and NVIDIA and CoreWeave all losing their pump. What is the link for Cactus Jack again? It's pinned, but I'll put it right here in the chat. It's cactusjack.com. And you can click on it right there to get access to the WhatsApp, which is where we distribute the news. I still think the SaaS apocalypse is possible. I really don't believe in this. I think the SaaS apocalypse is stupid. I think the entire narrative is stupid. I really disagree with the idea that these companies are dead. Now, the opportunity cost of being stuck in a ServiceNow, which, you know, maybe your upside target is like 170, 180 versus a Micron that might go to 2000. That's a whole different question. It's not a question of on which one's going to outperform. It's a question of, are these names structurally and fundamentally going to be destroyed in the coming years because of Anthropic? I'm like, no, that's not happening. Like, look at their earnings. Like, it's not happening. It's almost the sort of the same thesis for the supply and demand imbalances for the memory stocks. It's like, look at the supply, look at the demand, look at the pricing power, look at the forward multiple. It's probably got to go up. The cyclical narrative is stupid. Boom, Micron gets re-rated. I think that's going to happen to software names. In the past couple of weeks, we've seen Snowflake, Datadog, Zeta, 18 to 25. I mean, that's a hell of a move. Now, maybe it's not Micron 300 to 1,000, but the point is these names are not dead. They're putting up real growth, profitable growth. S&P trying to go for 760 right here, which I think would be an all-time high if we touch it. But they will be used as a source of liquidity to buy the semi names, you know? So if that happens, then yeah, those names are going to go down. Google getting a nice recovery. I mean, it's barely down, bro. Elon announces freaking, or not Elon, Sundar announces 80 billion of dilution. Market's like, okay, cool. That's all you got? I mean, this is why, you know, you look at your portfolio and you're like, how much more AI CapEx exposure can I get? Because the market has the appetite to absorb all of it. All of it. Now, maybe Google will dump in the coming days or when they actually start diluting. But the point is, they should be down today on that news, and they're not. Is Oklo getting a pump? Oklo is getting a little bit of a pump right here. Oklo's another one, dude. I mean, look, when it was at 200 back in October of last year, yeah, that was like real peak euphoria. I don't know if Oklo is going to be a generational nuclear play, but I know we need a lot more nuclear. I know they have ties to the DOE. And eventually, if they announce a deal, this thing's probably going up. What's the market cap on this? 12 billion. I know there's no revenue. I get some of this stuff. Again, Steve and I talked about it on Basis Points last week. Some of this stuff, you take a certain percentage of the portfolio that you're okay to speculate with, that you're okay if it goes to zero. It helps fight back against FOMO, and it also helps you take a little bit more risk in an environment where maybe taking some of that risk is okay, especially if there's a thesis around that risk, which for Keel, it's data center deals. For Oklo, it's nuclear ambitions. And you allocate and see kind of how the market thinks about it. But I don't see a headline on nuclear. I don't see anything. I don't know if Rubio said something about it, but I don't see anything on it. ServiceNow still down 124.60. NVIDIA losing a lot of its move. Micron as well flipped red. But S&P is green. Green. What are you thinking of Grab right here? Same thing I've said over the past couple of days. I think Tanner said something similar about Nubank last night as well. It's kind of the similar situation with BM&R, except Grab is actually a company that is growing 25% and is growing just the EBITDA 50% year over year. BM&R is, a crypto treasury. Both of these assets, whether it's crypto, international banks, etc., they aren't like, why should the market care about them when Jensen says MRVL is going to $1 trillion? That is the broader point that I've been kind of trying to make this morning. And I think you have to look at portfolio allocation, decide what you want to do if that's the case. I think also one easy way to resolve this stuff, and I was thinking about this last night, if you have a lot of shares in something that's not moving, a Grab, a SoFi, a BM&R, whatever, you can get rid of those shares and buy long calls for 2 years out and get access to the same upside at a cheaper cost. Now, what is the risk? The risk is obviously that the thesis doesn't play out and you have an expiration on those long calls. So, that could go to zero. But you are spending a significantly less amount of money to get exposure to the asset class. And if it does run up, then you could sell the contracts and boom, you've made money on the asset. So that's one way to play it. The other way to play it is not put net new capital into the assets that aren't working right now, because you can obviously see where the money is going. And then the third final way is to just sell and move on. I think all of those are legitimate ways to kind of think about this. But the broader point is, when Google's diluting by 80 billion, I think the market is like, we don't care about anything other than what Google's going to be spending that 80 billion on. Coherent, by the way, 18% on the day. And I think we just have to freaking accept that. Now, if the semi stocks go down 10% in a day, which is inevitable, everyone's going to be like, yeah, this CapEx thing is getting toppy. But then those dips get bought, right? So you have to have, as I've been saying, the stomach. Like, who really was easily able to buy HPE yesterday after it was up 50% going into the print? Yeah, it's up another 25% right here, but you have to really hope that thing would. The same thing I keep saying about Broadcom. It's at all-time highs. If we look up on Friday and Broadcom's at 550, is that going to surprise anybody? No. But knowing that it could probably get there, knowing that Dell did it, HPE did it, SMCI did it, all these companies crushed and went up in the AI CapEx space. MRVL basically did it. Is Broadcom the next one to do it? And would you be willing to buy it before it happens? It's tough. It's really tough when you've got names that are trading at incredibly discounted multiples like a Meta right here. Meta at least getting a little bit of a move, up 1% right now, as that continues to go green. I think it's just, the thing that's happened in 2025 is that the AI, here's the thing that I think, look, it definitely caught me off guard, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. I think it definitely caught the street off guard as well, which is why these estimates on earnings have been so awful, and Dell is able to go 40% in a day because they beat earnings by 75%. And these fancy Wall Street analysts are supposed to know how to price this stuff, and they can't. The AI CapEx theme has fundamentally gone into overdrive in 2026. And that means assets like a crypto, like a Grab, like a SoFi, that are not associated with that theme in any capacity, software to an extent, even though, software is starting to make a bit of a comeback, especially if they can make an AI narrative with them. They just don't matter. Like drone stocks, which I've only gotten a bid over the past couple of days because Trump is investing in them. Like they were dead the whole year and we had a freaking war. Drones couldn't get a bid and we had a war. We're going to need a lot of drones for war. We're probably going to have more wars in the future. Like the theme has been so evasive that things that you would think are an obvious beneficiary cannot catch a bid because we have never seen this level of capital expenditures in the history of American capitalism. I mean, America is not really a country that invests. America benefits from all the other countries that invest. We sell services. Now we're actually selling construction. And I think as a result of that, you've seen just a fundamental detachment from how the market thinks about where things are going. Like Ondas was 11 on January 2nd. Today it's $13. Like that's good. It's a nice move, but it fell from 11 to 8 in the middle of a war. And, now it's at 13. Like this is fundamentally underperformed a lot of the AI themes as Air Test Systems pumps 20%. Simply because, the market cares more about CapEx. Now, Ondas was at 50 cents last year. That's, if you bought it at 50 cents, a different question. But year to date, the CapEx names have just been the biggest winners. I mean, even silver, right? This thing pumped in January. People thought this would matter. Nope. Has nothing to do with CapEx, even though people tried to say it had something to do with data centers. Didn't work. So that's my point, right? It's like the CapEx stuff has just been really what the market cares more about. Why is NVIDIA dropping? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea why that one's dropping. Is oil going up? Oil is still at 92. That one hasn't gone down. CRM does have a $5 billion stake in Anthropic. Jensen's year to date must be amazing. Yeah. I would imagine. Dude, I wonder, Jensen's allowed to have private investments, right? Like his own trust or whatever. I wonder what he's got loaded up in there. I don't think he has to even disclose that shit. Could you imagine Jensen's just like, oh, NVIDIA's buying Nebius? I'm going to buy some Nebius. Oh, NVIDIA's buying CoreWeave? I'm going to buy some CoreWeave. Yeah, right before he said MRVL goes to $1 trillion, probably YOLO'd into some MRVL calls. Like, it is just hilarious, dude, that one sentence changed everything today. Pretty incredible. He's buying Build-A-Bear. Full port Iran. Iran got rejected at 69.57. Those market makers didn't want us to see 70 today. They took that one back down. Okay, what else do we got? We saw JOLTs. Rubio's testifying. Nothing too crazy from that. The Googs pretty much completely recovering. Broadcom still up 4. When is your Singapore meetup? I will link it right here in the chat. It is happening pretty soon, June 27th. Very excited for it. Excited to go to Bali as well. I have never been to Southeast Asia, so it'll be cool to see the region. When you come to the UK, again, I talked about this last week. I do not know if we're doing a UK meetup this year. Odds are we're probably not. It's just really, really busy this summer. And UK is, it's a lot to plan, dude. It's a lot to plan this summer. We've already done 3 meetups. Singapore is also going to be a big one. So the UK might not be happening this time. We'll absolutely visit the UK eventually, but full-on meetup this year might not be officially happening. Did you see the Backrooms movie yet? No, but I did some. I mean, I saw the trailer of it last night. I can't believe people are this excited about that movie. But it is getting a lot of love. You're scared of the knives. That's exactly why I'm not going. I'm scared of the knives. Bro is scared of the ends in it. Dude, I want to go to the UK just to speak the UK slang. I want to speak the UK slang. I can already do the Toronto slang. Got me cheesing, fam. I can do the Toronto slang. I need the UK slang, bro. Listen to a couple of UK drill rappers. But I want the real UK slang. I love the accent so much. Did you see the news post about Microsoft banning Claude since it costed more than people? Yeah, I did. And we were talking about that last night with Steve. It's, Anthropic, if it was public right now, I don't think they easily get to just be the magical company that has this crazy valuation that everyone's excited about. I think they would be subject to the whims of some really harsh questions, which is, why are certain executives at companies complaining about their Claude token usage? Why is Claude not increasing the cost of tokens on Opus 4.8 and leaving it the same? I think there's some like breaking point where companies are like, we cannot pay this much for tokens, no matter how good the model is. And that theoretically can impact growth, margins, et cetera. So Anthropic's still a phenomenal company. And it's going to be multi-trillion. But yeah, Microsoft's kind of getting tired of paying for that shit. Also, Microsoft probably wants Copilot to be the default. So it makes sense why they're doing it. But the Uber COO that came out and complained about the token budget, he said they used their full year token budget in a couple months. Like, that's not sustainable. So these costs have to come down. Bruv. Is that a UK slang? B-R-U-V, bruv? Okay, bruv. That's what I'm going to say now. Bruv. What's up, bruv? Let's ask ChatGPT. What's some UK slang? Give me 5 UK slang words. Any plans for a Toronto meetup? No, but I'll probably be going to Tanner's in August. Pang? That food looks pang, attractive or really good. Mugged off. He mugged me off in front of everybody. Disrespected. Knackered. I'm knackered after that workout. Extremely tired. Dodgy. Sketchy. That deal sounds dodgy. Bear. There were bear people there. A lot of are very. Pang. Speaking of Pang, that stock is up 20% today. Pang right there. Penguin Solutions. Okay, Pang. Pang and bruv. Just end every sentence with mate. Oh my gosh. In it, Pang, bruv. That's what we got to do. You are not 10, so not bruv. Is that what the kids say? Dude, when I was walking outside this morning before the show, and I was seeing all these kids like line up to cross the street because they were like going on a field trip or something. I was like, dude, that's crazy, bro. Like, I remember being a kid lining up to, have your teachers put you in a line to go to a field trip and get into the bus. Like, man, that was a long time ago. Like, that is just not my life anymore. Now I just stare at candles all day and complain about why my stocks aren't going up. But going on a field trip, like, that's like, it's just, I'm so detached from that world now. Until I have kids, I don't think I would ever, get back into experiencing that stuff. Pounds, you're down 6% today. You realize you're old. Yeah, no, seriously. I realized the last time I went on a field trip was 14 years ago or something. It's crazy. But, being an adult is fun. You get your own autonomy and freedom. Get to make money. That's kind of fun, So, all right. Do we have any other freaking headlines, or is that it? I think that's pretty much it. I don't see anything else, guys. Another green day for the broader markets. SAS down. Not that surprising. We've seen SAS get hit many times. Akamai, I think we got a headline right here. Akamai is enhancing security for AI factories by integrating its guard core segmentation with NVIDIA's DACA framework. Oh, is that an NVIDIA partnership? I think that's theoretically an NVIDIA partnership. There you go. Akamai, 4% up. 4% up. There you go. As your green. Jason says Amit's about to get his day trading on. I cannot lie. I have been, every time I leave the market open from 11 to 1, I get into a different zone, dude. I get into a different zone. It's been doing okay. It's been doing okay. I've been sharing some progress with Jason. I've been doing all right. Learning some strategies about a whole 49-inch monitor. It's kind of fun because I literally put the 49-inch monitor in my living room, and so there's a nice view while I'm trading, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there and trading, looking out into the view, and like those are my, I guess, afternoons after the market open. Trying to get better at it. So I know it's not the best time to day trade, obviously. So I've had to adjust my strategy to, look for setups that are good intraday because I can't trade at 9:30 because I'm doing the show. But it's been doing okay. Akamai right there. Shout out to Mr. Jason telling us about this stock. He'll be on for Technical Tuesday. That's up 4%. And that is green. Give us a pick of the monitor. So I posted it on Instagram. I'll link my Instagram again. But this shit is crazy, bro. It's so legit. It's so legit. This is when you guys thought I smoked because I had a lighter, even though it's for candles. It's so nice, dude. It makes this screen and this screen that I'm looking at look like nothing, bro. 49 inches is freaking amazing for a monitor. I don't know why I didn't get a bigger monitor sooner. Like, I should have got it years ago. But there's my Instagram right there in the chat if anyone wants to follow. All right. I think that's pretty much it. We'll be live for TT with Mr. Jason. We'll talk more about his thesis on some of these AI trades, where the market's going, if he thinks it's time to take some profits across the broader market. If we're going to see different updates in regards to Broadcom, CrowdStrike, a lot of different the earnings that we have and kind of what he's thinking about that market environment. NVIDIA right here losing the majority of the pump today, but at least still green. And yeah, Corning as well, getting a nice little move today. Is there anything else? I think we talked about pretty much everything today. The Google news, you spent a lot of time on that. Microsoft's collateral damage because of Google. Software stocks, collateral damage because of MRVL. Dell taking a probably much needed 5% hit. I mean, this thing was pushing 500 in the pre-market. Dell right now, 442. It's basically doubled in a couple months. So not that crazy to see that relaxing. But HPE, massive move off those earnings, 24%. And these dips probably are getting bought if the market continues to be in that area. Virgin Galactic, 40% down. That one's getting hit. But you're seeing the other space names actually have a relatively decent day. S&P 500, are we at all-time highs? We are indeed all-time highs, folks. 760 on the S&P. Okay, word of the day. Let's do word of the day. Do we have any earnings today after the bell? We have, oh crap, we have Palo Alto today. Okay, so we'll have Palo Alto, GitLab, and Ulta, and then we'll have Jason. Oh, that's a big one today, Palo Alto. That's going to be really important for CrowdStrike. All right, so that'll be one that we look at later today. And we'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. We got to start the streak again. Okay, this one's going to be kind of easy. Oh, you guys are going to think I'm cheating on this one. Let me do another one. It's limpid, but it's easy to say this word. So I'm going to do it again in front of you guys. Give me another one. Why does it have to have what it has in the middle of that freaking word, bro? Why does it have to do that? Apod. Dude, I don't even. Goodness, dude. You guys saw me say, give me another one in front of you guys. You guys literally saw me do it in front of you guys. Apo. Can we do a different one? We just why does this always freaking happen, dude? Apodictic, whatever. Apodictic. Apodictic. Stupid ass word. Expressed with unquestionable certainty, leaving no room for doubt. Apodictic. Be wary of apodictic forces in investing. Markets rarely reward certainty. I don't even think I'm saying this right. Apodictic. Out of all the fucking words this could have given to me, this is the one it picks.
Apodictic.
And I didn't even say it right, dude. I'm done. All right. I'll see you guys in the market close. See you guys in the market close. This is fucking stupid. Bye, guys.